Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Education Committee today on Friday, the 10th of February. My name is Deirdre Bartman. I'm the chair of the committee. Today in committee on our agenda is the following. Briefing by the Western Cape Education Department on the admissions process for 2023 academic year, status of school readiness for the 2023 academic year, and the 2022 National Senior Certificate results and the pass rate for the Western Cape. I welcome the members, department, and minister and officials, for those who are online possibly, and for our guests in the committee meeting today. I've also been informed by the minister and department that we have a special surprise today, that they have set up a table outside. Should there be any queries from persons who are in the committee who would like to go do a checkup with the Department of Education outside. So when you walk through the doors at the bottom here and you go to your right and you go right again here in the lobby, there's a little table and the Education Department has set up there if you want to go speak about a particular matter. And from the committee side, I just want to say thank you. I think this is the first time actually that we've had what one could consider almost like an information or query booth while the committee is up and running. With that, colleagues, you know the format of committee meetings. I will be asking for introductions from the members in the House, and then I'll be asking introduction from the members online. We'll then deal with introduction from Minister and departmental officials. I'll then just ask that the guests just introduce themselves for the record so that our procedural officer, Ms. Hassan Musa, just has the respective information, and then we're going to jump straight into the presentations, followed by a question and answer session. And while in the USA, I must admit I watched a lot of YouTube videos by Miss Maxine Waters. So in 2023, I'm going to ask that members please keep their questions brief. Otherwise, in 2023, I'm also going to start reclaiming my time. With that, members, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Chairperson. The name is Khalid Sayed, member of the committee.
Good morning, Chair. Morning, officials. Morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Fry. I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning, Ferlin Christians, member of this committee.
Good morning, Chairperson. Khalil Brankes.
Good morning, Chairperson and members. Dan Plato.
Thank you so much. Members online.
Good morning, Chairperson. Ricardo Mackenzie joining online this morning. Thank you for the meeting.
Thank you so much, Member Mackenzie. Minister and officials, you can introduce your team.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make some... Thank you. I'd like to make some opening remarks. Would you like the team to introduce themselves and then would you, or should I make my introductions first? Thank you. I'm David Mania, Minister of Education.
Morning, everybody. My name is Brent Walters. I'm the head of department for the Western Cape Education Department.
Good morning, Chairperson members. Harun Mohammed, Head for Curriculum and Assessment Management.
Good morning, Chair and everybody. Juan Benjamin, Chief Director Curriculum.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alan Meyer, Deputy Director General for Branch IDC, Institutional Development and Coordination. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair and everyone present. My name is Heather van Ster and I'm the Acting Chief Director Districts.
We can start with the guests on your side, yes?
Good morning, Madam Chair, honourable members. My name is Betty Nieuwoud. I'm the Director of STEL Care. It's a child protection organisation based in Stellenbosch.
Morning, everybody. My name is Siviwe Minyi. I represent an organisation that is working within primary school and high school education. Thank you.
Thank you. If we can just start on your left. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eugene Jackson, and I'm a concerned parent.
Good morning, Council, Chairperson, members. I'm a member of the public, Lucian Otto.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Fahira Isaacs. I'm also a concerned parent.
Good morning, everybody. Concerned parent.
You don't want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Chairperson, I'm Leah Visagi and I'm with him.
Thank you so much. Member Kama, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Chair and management of the department. My name is Mesuli Kama. I'm an alternate member to the committee. Thank you.
I like the tie, but I did check if there were any words written on it. And I'm always super excited when people want to attend my committees. I always feel very popular. But with that, Minister, I'm going to allow for introductory remarks, and then we're going to jump straight into the presentations. Because we have more than one briefing today, please, we're going to run through all of the presentations. Otherwise, the question and answer session can get quite long if we go through every single presentation individually.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the opportunity to brief the Standing Committee on Education variously on admissions, on readiness, and of course on our matric results. On the whole question of admissions, we have made, I think, very significant progress on our rapid school build program, completing more than 600 classrooms to date. We've also, I think, made very significant.
Apologies, Minister. Is that a point of order?
Yes, Chair. Just could I propose that we start with the matric result issue, because that's the first presentation we received. We only received, and I'll raise my concern again as I have last year, we only received the one on learner placements at 7:15 this morning, or 12 minutes past 7 to be precise. So just in terms of, there's greater familiarity with the matric results. I was wondering whether it's possible then for the MEC maybe to start off just with that first, that part first.
Okay, because the Minister is making introductory remarks, I was going to allow the Minister to finish all of his introductory remarks instead of giving him 3 opportunities for the 3 sessions for today. Our meeting agenda does say that we're starting admissions process, school readiness 2022 NSC results. But if possible, we could start with the NSC. Would that be possible? Member Khalid, would that be
Yeah, that's
satisfactory?
fine. That's in order.
Okay.
Thank you.
Minister, with the introductory remarks, please sum up all 3 of your introductory remarks into one.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chairperson, sorry, my hand was up.
Apologies, I didn't see your hand. Member Mackenzie?
Chairperson, I think perhaps because the parents are here, didn't they arrive for the admissions first, as opposed to them sitting waiting until 12? That's just the question I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay, so today is a committee briefing. It is not a public hearing specifically. So I do wish for us to run through the agenda. Should there be enough time at the end, there is a rule that the chair can then use their discretion to allow for extra questions and answers at the end, specifically because it's not a public hearing, so the rules of public hearing doesn't apply. So my request to members is if we can get through the 3 presentations, irrespective in the order that they are in, because there will be a question and answer session for members after the respective presentations on all 3 of them. And if we can keep our questions and answers brief, and if there's enough time at the end, I would love to open up. But in previous education meetings, we have realized that sometimes we as members are the culprits. We ask a lot of questions. We expect the department to answer all of them, and then there isn't always time left at the end. So my request is that we are able to just keep that in mind for today's meeting. Member Ferdinand Christians?
Thank you, Chair. Can we set that parameter now so that one member don't ask 10 questions? Can we just have the limit now for the first round, and then we can come back if there's any clarification on that, so that every member have the opportunity to ask questions? Thank you.
May I make a proposal that for the question and answer session, we stick to 2 questions each per member. We will open up for extra second and third and how many rounds you want, but let's stick to 2 per member so that we can try and keep our question and answer session as equitable as possible. Is everyone in accordance with that? Member Syed?
Chair, I need clarity on that. Is that 2 per member per presentation? Because there are more than 2 presentations here. Okay, there's 2 presentations. Is it
clarify.
1 per presentation?
For the question and answer session, members will have 2 questions each. You can ask it on whatever presentation you want. Once the first round is done, if a member has more questions, they can ask another 2 questions, and so on and so on. The reason for that is so that we can ensure that our question and answer session can then be distributed equitable and so that as many members as possible are able to ask questions on the respective presentations. Colleagues, julle is ou hande in die onderwyskomitee, asseblief. Dit is 'n Vrydag, ons werk hier op Vrydag. Minister, please continue with your introductory remarks.
Thank you, Chairperson, for that clarity. Given the fact that there are two presentations and that we are going to take them successively, I would like to confine my opening remarks principally to the question of admissions. The first point is, I think we have made significant progress on the Rapid School Build program. As I said earlier, completing over 600 classrooms to date. We have also made significant progress on the placement of grade 1 and grade 8, placing about 98% of learners to date. But despite that significant significant progress, the system is still under significant pressure, especially, Chairperson, as a result of over 3,000 extremely late applications. And by that I mean applications that were received after the 1st of January 2023, and there are more extremely late applications flooding in. So I would really like to thank the admissions team and indeed the infrastructure team who really for the last few months have been working around the clock to resolve placement challenges. And unfortunately, it does take time because every learner, of course, is unique and is not simply a number. There are unique elements that need to be considered, for example, in the placement of each learner, language, for example, subjects, and in some cases, special needs. So it does take time. But I do understand the frustration of some parents, and we are certainly, as a department, committed to working with concerned parents to resolve each one of the placement challenges. And as you said, we do have a help desk set up outside this venue to deal and immediately deal with any queries that concerns parents may have. But we do understand the frustration, and we certainly as a department are committed to working to resolve each one of these placement challenges in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you so much. HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Minister, members of the committee. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on the two topics today. Chairperson, if it's in order with you, we would like to do the presentation on the National Senior Certificate first, and then we'll take the presentation on admissions second. If that is in order with you, we will do that. The presentation on the National Senior Certificate will be done by Mr. Mohammed. He's the DDG for curriculum. He will do that presentation. And the presentation on admissions, I will do that presentation. I think maybe to just say on both those matters, we are, as I think the committee knows, as a department, fully committed to ensure that in the end we do the best for our people. And the efforts, as the Minister has indicated in his remarks, the efforts that we as a department have undertaken are basically unprecedented in this department. I've been around a long time in the Western Cape government, and they're unprecedented. And I think with that commitment, I think the members also know we are also available to them when they contact us and say there's an issue. So thanks for raising those things, because then it also gives us the opportunity as an early warning to actually just deal with the matters that do actually arise and deal with them before they turn into something else. So with that being said, Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. The presentation on the National Senior Certificate will be done first. I'm going to hand straight over to DDG Mohammed, if that is in order with you. Thank you very much. Wrong presentation. That's the one on admissions, the other one. Just go full screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning again. It's our pleasure to present to you the report on the NSC as requested. So the first item is on the magnitude and monitoring of the NSC exams. We prepared 124 national question papers, including backup papers for life orientation, information technology, and computer applications technology paper 1. We printed a total of 32 million images. Question papers were distributed during using a secure system, which only allowed bags to be opened and closed on a specific date, time, and location when the exam paper was written, and scripts were returned using the system. On monitoring, the exam was written at 485 exam centers, including combined centers. Combined centers referring to centers where part-time candidates were also writing. They were monitored across all districts daily, and reports were submitted to both the DBE and Umalusi. 64 ex-WCD officials served as monitors. With regard to invigilation, we used an invigilator system of 50% teachers and 50% community members, and appointed 1,781 community invigilators. The invigilator training was conducted via Microsoft Teams from 12th to 13th of October for all 8 districts, and all schools were provided with the presentation and videos of the training. It was compulsory for the following delegates involved in the conduct, administration, and management of the exams to attend the training sessions: principal and center managers, who acted as chief invigilators, 2 school senior management team members, senior invigilators, district officials involved in the conduct, administration, and management of the exam. With regard to accommodations and concessions, a total of 2,257 candidates, 3.6% of the registered candidates, had approved accommodations and concessions. Accommodations are support mechanisms to ensure that learners with barriers to learning obtain an even opportunity to write the same exam as learners without a barrier to learning. And concessions refer to special approvals. For example, a learner with a second language will be presented with an opportunity to be taken in lieu of the exempted language, or spelling that needs to be excused during the marking. And on the right-hand side, we present some of the figures in relation to that item. With regard to marking, markers wrote competency test in 11 subjects as indicated. I'll just highlight a few of them: accounting, business studies, consumer studies, economics, English home language, etc. Marking took place from the 8th of December to the 22nd of December at the 11 venues, also as indicated. And some subjects were marked centrally at DBE. I'll just name them quickly: agricultural management practices, agricultural technology, music, dance, SA sign language, home language, English, SAL, and isiXhosa SAL marked in Western Cape. And at the bottom, again, without wasting too much time, the figures are indicated, but you will notice that there has been a steady increase in the number of these officials who have been appointed. A couple of contextual points with regard to the 2022 cohort. The NSC exams were conducted for the 9th time in the CAPS context. This cohort entered grade 1 in 2011. That was the year when the NSC was written for the 4th time in grade 12. And 62,350 full-time candidates across 457 exam centers were registered for the exam. This class was impacted by the following key policy changes: policy on progressions, the 8th cohort that was affected by it; discontinuation of the policy on multiple exam opportunities; introduction of SA sign language in 2018; introduction of the specialization in the technology subjects in 2018, and the offering of 2 question papers in accounting and business studies, and the abolishment of the designated list of subjects in 2018. On the next slide, we present again some of the distinctive contextual factors that affected this particular group. They sat for a trimmed ATP in grades 10 and 11. So some of the subject content that they had to sit for in grade 12 was not covered in 10 and 11. This was accompanied by an amended program of assessment. There was a cumulative effect of learning losses. The need for psychosocial support was quite high. Reduction in exams and greater focus on SBA was something that they experienced. And then they were learning under COVID-19 conditions for 2 years, and they were possibly the worst affected class with in relation to the effects of COVID-19. And then they were also subjected to the challenges of load shedding and a number of service delivery protests. On the next slide is a summary of the results, and you will see that the number of candidates who correctly wrote the examinations increased from 57,709 in 2021 to 60,338. It was the highest enrollment we've ever had. In terms of bachelor's degree, 26,125 in 2021, 25,761. That's an area where we've experienced a slight decline. In the case of diplomas, we rose from 13,629 to 15,247. And for certificates, we rose from 7,090 to 8,071. With endorsed certificates, we dropped slightly from 30 to 23. And then the total number of passes was 49,102. And as you saw in the media releases that followed the matric exam announcements, we rose from 81.2 to 81.4%. Okay, that's just a graphical reflection of that particular one. And then just to indicate on the next slide that our total passes, so you'll see a little green arrow indicating that between 2021 and 2022, the total pass numbers increased, the total pass percentage also increased. There was a question about the progressed candidates. So in the number of candidates that were registered was 2,323. The number who wrote was 2,030. The number of candidates who passed was 537, and the percentage pass rate was 26.5%. Moving on, we've just done an analysis moving back to 2018, so from 2018 to 2022, because it is a phenomenon that we want to pay greater attention to. Compared with other provinces, we are the province with the least level of progress in this area. On the next slide is a summary of the key achievements of this particular group. So as I've indicated, we've had the highest number of candidates as indicated. Our turnout rate was also the highest in recent memory. There was a decrease in access to a bachelor's degree from 45.3% to 42.7%. Our initial analysis of that phenomenon is that because we had a bigger number of candidates writing who were progressed through the system, the quality of candidates who sat may have affected the bachelor pass rate. We had the highest mathematics and physical science pass rates of 67.9% and 81.1% respectively. 4 districts achieved pass rates over 80%. Metro North achieved the highest bachelor's degree access of 51.9%, including independent schools. The overall pass rate in the 13 LSAL schools decreased from 90% to in 2021 to 83.0%, and 40% of these candidates passed without access to a bachelor's degree program. But in further checking on this particular item, our Inclusive Ed Director is indicating that the DBE had not included the full complement of information, and the matter is being discussed with DBE, so it's not actually a decrease. And we can provide the written record of that. 70 of the 457 schools achieved 100% pass rate, and 92 schools maintained a pass rate of 95% and above for the past 5 years, indicating the ability to sustain excellent learner performance and functionality at these schools. On the next slide, we just give a description of the distribution of schools according to quintiles. And on the following slide, we present information on the analysis of the passes by quintile. So you'll see in quintile 1, there was a slight decrease. In quintile, in quintile 1, there was a slight increase in the performance. In quintile 2, in the bachelor's component, there was a slight increase. In quintile 3, in the pass rate, there was a slight increase. And in quintile 4, there was an increase in both the pass rate and the bachelor rate. So we're reasonably pleased with the improvement we're getting in the lower quintile levels. The next slide presents candidates per district in the exams, the percentage who wrote per district. And in the next slide, we indicate the district performance. So Cape Winelands, there was an improvement. In Eden and Central Karoo, a slight drop. Metro Central, a slight improvement. In Metro East, a slight improvement. Metro North, a slight decrease. Metro South, a slight decrease. In the case of Overberg, a slight improvement, and West Coast a slight decrease. Department has had a discussion with all the district directors, and as we speak, there's not only a lot of analysis going on, but also proactive steps being taken to improve the results in 2023. On this slide is a description of our participation and performance in mathematics. You can just move the slide. Okay, so we indicated the improvement in maths and physical sciences, but in actual terms, our mathematical performance declined by 5%. Participation rates has been an ongoing challenge in this particular province. In the discussions we've had over the years on this particular item, what we're discovering is that parents and learners are choosing mathematical literacy in favor of mathematics, on the understanding that they stand a better chance of getting access to university should they not be requiring pure maths in order to proceed. It also anecdotally is said that the chances of getting bursaries increase on that particular item. But we launched a strengthened maths improvement strategy in the last few months, and we are trying to address that particular item. But what we want to indicate is that although our participation rates in pure mathematics is low, if you look at the figures in mathematical literacy, in technical maths, our participation rates in the area of mathematics is actually quite high. But we are, paying attention to the issue of making sure that the learners who can actually pass pure mathematics do take the subject. In terms of higher education access, collectively, so we may have declined in terms of bachelor passes, but if you take the diploma and the endorsed certificate figures, you'll see that we've actually increased the number of candidates who can enter higher education. We were asked to present information on the schools that performed below 60%, and as you'll see, we have decreased the number of schools between 2021 and 2022, and the figure now stands at 31. We've also done a bit of an analysis on the different percentiles of performance, and they're indicated there, and the green indicates the areas where we've posted improvements, the red where we've declined, and the areas where we've maintained levels of the past. On the next slide, we just present a brief analysis on the schools, the 145 schools, which contributed to the 6,718 failures. So, we've zoomed in on the areas where we're needing to be paying more attention going further forward. We've also provided you with an age profile of the learners and their achievement and non-achievement rates. Also presented to you in graphic form. Okay, then preparation for the May-June 2023 exams, remarking and rechecking. Registration closed on the 3rd of February. WCD will notify candidates once remark results are approved by Umalusi. And the 2022 registrations, the June registrations closed on the 8th of February. Online registration closes for the senior certificate also closed on the 8th of February, and the exams are scheduled to start on the 3rd of May. There was a request for other additional information, so we'll just share that quickly. Our districts have been supplied with their district results, as I mentioned earlier on, comparison of the SPA versus exam, as well as an electronic interactive program of per question analysis for each question paper. And maybe I should just make a point of emphasis on this one. Each school receives an analysis of how they performed on each of the questions in the exam paper. And why we're making a point of emphasis around this is that our sense is that our schools need to be making more use of this data, but I will make a point about that slightly further down the presentation. Subject, district and school data analysis and interpretation with the exams publication report has been supplied to all the senior curriculum planners, the heads for curriculum and assessment coordinators, and further mediated with circuit managers and subject advisors to be used for planning and target setting. So over the course of last week, we had a meeting, a 2-day meeting with all our subject advisors, and a detailed discussion and analysis has been done in each of the 57 subjects that we offer at matric level in the province. Districts were also supplied with their overall circuit and school performance, as well as detailed analysis of the performance in subjects at the district and school levels, and our chief marker and internal moderators. Reports on the 2022 exam papers were supplied to all the senior curriculum planners for engagement with curriculum advisors in the districts. We were then asked to present on school improvement plans supporting schools that were performing under 60%, and we'd just like to emphasize that we're wanting to take a holistic approach. So if you've been an observer in this process over time, you'll see that if you concentrate on one set of 60 schools that perform under 60%, next year is another group of schools. So in order not to lose any schools, we want to emphasize that our approach is holistic. And on the slide, you'll see the key elements of that. If the slide can be moved, please. I'm not going to go through the detail of it, but just to say there's an emphasis on pedagogics, in other words, on the teachers, on learner support and accountability, on the STEAMAC subjects, on the integration of ICT into teaching and learning. And we're targeting all schools, albeit on a sliding scale of support, with the schools needing most support being concentrated on most heavily. We provide some further detail. So one of the things that we've identified is that although over time we have been focusing on the underperforming schools, Mr. Mayor and his team and have been doing work on that particular area, it is quite clear on the basis of the trends that we're seeing that we need to be paying more specific attention to those particular schools. They need to be given more support, and we need to be alert to changing circumstances in those schools. So we provide you with some detail around that. And in the slides that follow, the 3 slides that follow, you'll see under 3 main categories the intensity and depth that we're aiming at. So the first is to provide a set of criteria to the districts on the identification of the targeted schools, the schools that are underperforming and also at risk. And you'll see there's a lot of focus there on supporting those schools on the use of data more effectively. On the next slide is a holistic approach relating to well-being and creating a safe environment in those schools, a focus on the SGB's role, a focus on the SMT's role, and all the other points that I mentioned earlier on, the very specific support around teacher support and learner support, etc., etc. And then in the third section, we focus on monitoring and evaluation to ensure both support and accountability, and we provide some detail around the steps that will be taken to strengthen our implementation in that area. There was a question around the support that we provide with regard to wellness. So we have presented previously that the department since 2020 has had a dedicated program on psychosocial wellness and well-being of both educators and learners. And within that, we've got a very specific grade 12 program as indicated with tutor camps, career guidance expo, mental well-being, growth and change mindset, study skills and methods, emotional regulation, parent support sessions, trauma-informed classrooms, and something called the Circle of Courage that we presented. And in the next slide is just further unpacking of all of that detail and some evidence of some of the work that was done over the course of last year. Chairperson and members, that brings us to the conclusion of this presentation. Given the turbulent context since 2020, the Western Cape Education Department, with the collective efforts of all officials, learners, parents, stakeholders, and parents, have managed an improved pass rate. The conduct, management, and administration of the NSC was successfully undertaken, and the department will once again strive to ensure that the class of 2023 is supported to achieve the best possible outcome, namely improvements on all criteria based on realistic rates of progression. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TDG Mohammed. Maybe to just indicate to the committee on that presentation, we received an extensive list in the letter, Chairperson, as to what should be covered in the presentation. Mr. Mohammed has given answers to all the things that the committee asked for in the presentation, and obviously at the end, after I do this portion of the presentation, we'll open up for questions if there are questions on some of the information that we have provided. But maybe just to say that the class of 2022 did very well. We're very proud of the results, and the presentation gives you analysis, and what that analysis demonstrates is that the department is not resting on their laurels, but looking at potential to try and see if we can improve the performance with support for the class of 2023. And that analysis becomes very important, specifically the one which I would like the committee to think about, which is the one which said we give per question analysis for every paper that a school wrote. And that becomes a very, very important point, because what it in fact allows a school to do is to say, well, in the mathematics paper, the questions on trig ratios were poorly done by my school. Therefore, I need support on the questions of trig ratios. On the question, let's say, geography paper, tropical cyclones, there was a question on tropical cyclones. We did very well on that. I feel that my school can be supported. We don't need the support. But on another question, say on temperature or something else in geography, I can actually get support. And so our focus this year will be to put a lot of emphasis, Chairperson, on that, to make sure that in the end, our schools do actually take that analysis and take it forward. So having said that, thank you very much to Mr. Mohammed and his team for the presentation, and we'll take the questions from the committee afterwards, after I do my portion of the presentation. So Chairperson, my portion of the presentation is to look at the question of admissions and to just bring the committee up to date, because we have been before this committee a few times on the question of admission. So this is to bring you up to date as to the efforts that we have taken as a department and where we are. What is the current, as they say in athletics, points to date on the situation. I do want to make a couple of opening remarks. I think the first remark to be made is that the department is absolutely committed to making sure that children who enter a system in grade 1 and grade 8 are offered a place. You will see from the presentation, which I am about to do, and just confirm the Minister's opening remarks, we are under pressure, a growth pressure. That growth pressure is not just in education. That growth pressure is in all the sectors. Education is the first sector to directly feel that growth pressure immediately, because obviously every year we're opening schools in January, and so parents come in January and I highlight the issue. But of course, this growth pressure is a growth pressure across all sectors, not just in education. We are committed, if we can go to the first slide, please. We are committed to make sure that we provide quality education for every child in every classroom, in every school in the province. The system is very large. More than 1,500 schools across every community And what we try to do, just in looking at how we provide our services, is that, as you of course know, we have our 8 districts and we've got officials dealing at the school level with the schools. The thing for us to do is to, number one, provide the space, and then number two, to make sure that that space is quality. And I think that's a challenge. And in education, education is like a high jump for those who are teachers in the room. You're never satisfied with where you reach, but you always try and do better. That's what education is about. It's about, you know, if you got a D for a subject, you're not going to be satisfied with it. I think they call it different codes now, Mr. Mohammed. I'm showing my age, but it's codes now, 5 and 4 and so on. If you were to get that, you try and improve and make sure that you can do it. And that's really the commitment of our department, to make sure that we enable that is really very important. So, Chairperson, just to say on enrollment growth, the WCD system has increased by an average of 17,901 learners per year. If we were to take that as 1,000 learners per school, that's roughly 18 schools per year. So that's the challenge, and that's the problem statement. Problem statement is that the demographers tell us that that problem is not going to go away anytime soon. Although the demographers indicate that by 2030 there should be a leveling off of the population growth of the Western Cape. But I think those that follow statistics closely and watch Statistics South Africa's releases, you will see that there's a projection of our population now at 7.1 million, and then they project very soon we'll get to 8 million. And so our service, as a front-facing service, Chairperson, we feel the brunt of that growth immediately. Now, why I'm saying that to the committee before I get into the meat of the presentation, and why it is important for the committee to take the committee into our confidence. In order to meet that, we have to be able to plan properly. We cannot plan properly if people just arrive. It's very hard to do that. I'm an administrator of the system. It is very hard for us to say, because you see, Chairperson, this is not like something where I can say, okay, I built a school just in case. You see, in case 50,000 children arrive, let me build the 50 schools. These children do not arrive in the places where the schools are. So in order to tackle this issue, it is very, very, very important for parents to ensure that learners apply in the dates that we actually give. Because imagine we could close the system fully on April 15th or on whatever date we wish to close that system. What that will allow us to do, let's say we had a hard closure at that stage. I would like the committee members to just hear me on this, because it's an appeal to you to help me with this and help us with this. If we could have a hard closure on April 15th, that will allow us 1 year to actually, well, it's whatever months, to actually plan, okay, this is the environment. But now what happens in our system, Chairperson, is we have a hard closure, but obviously education is a basic human right. We have to give children access. So then we have a second date. We even have a third date and a fourth date. And then we have no date. Like we got now, people are arriving and we have to accommodate them. As a system, obviously, our commitment to respond to that, it is there. As I said, I have been in the Western Cape government for a long time. Our response is unprecedented for the WCD. But I just wanted to appeal to the members of this committee who deal with the public and have constituencies, to basically indicate to your constituencies that no system can actually plan without knowing what it's dealing with. It can't do that. And that is essentially our difficulty. So having said that, Chairperson, on the first slide, I want to indicate you see that growth. We expect that growth at least till 2030, growth like that, at least till 2030. Our dilemma is we don't know the places where people will settle. We can predict and we try and provide those spaces, and I think those are our constraints. So 2023, admissions process started in January 2022. We did advocacy in the schools. We did posters and pamphlets. In March 2022, we did advocacy again in media about upcoming admission processes. And on 14th March 2022, admissions opened. On 15th April 2022, admissions closed, but the site remained open for late applications. Now, I think the members of the committee know the department didn't only go for electronic in the sense that we said, oh yeah, you know, you must have access to data and so on. We did pop-ups in the mall. Some of the members in this committee, chairperson, even attended the pop-ups. Thank you very much for that. They attended the pop-ups. They told the constituencies, please actually apply. We also provided at each district office an opportunity for parents to apply. And then even at some schools that we have identified, and in fact, in this year's campaign that went out to the schools, the material is being delivered for next year. The dates and so on, and the schools and all have been actually defined. And so it is important for members to do that. We will send a whole pack to you also, chairperson, for distribution, so that the members, when constituents raise issues, they can say, but yeah, the department did actually say, this is where you need to go if you're from that area. So if you've got it per district, per area, you go to that school and your information can actually be captured. Having said that, obviously we know we still get late applications. What we did in 15 April 2022, admissions closed, and then 16 April 2022 to 27th May 2022, the SGBs applied their admission policies and they finalized their applications. On the 27th of May 2022, the parents were informed of the outcome of the applications, and on the 18th of June, system activated the first successful option where the parents have not confirmed. So basically, what you have, you could apply to 10 schools, but then as you weren't chosen, then you go to the next school on the list. From 19 July to 31st August, schools review the admission list and they contact the parents who applied on the system and still require a place. And then 17th of June was the closing date for parents to make, sorry, I missed that, I went wrong. 17th of June was the closing date for parents to make a decision on which school they accept. 18th June, the system will activate the first successful option where parents have not confirmed. The schools then close, and on 19th of July, schools review the admission list and contact parents who applied on the system and still need a place. And then from 1st September to 15 December, the WCD admission teams place and resolve outstanding cases. So a big effort by the department to try and make sure that we regularize that, but also that the public also knows that that actually is the system. So this year, the system will be similar. 1 or 2 dates may change, chairperson, by a day or two, but we'll put that out in the public domain. But it's going to be the same, exactly the same system, and we're hoping that people will actually apply in time that allows us to just execute better planning. So this becomes a very important slide. We have been to the committee before to talk about the Rapid Build program and what we've done inside that program. But the unprecedented response from the department in terms of the pressure was to then decide that within a very short space of time, we will try to build 842 classrooms. And we have been to the committee before to tell the committee about that. But so far, by 31st January 2023, 662 classrooms were completed for the 2023 school year. A total of 180 classrooms on the process of completion in line with the target dates. The rate of the build was unprecedented. We built the equivalent of 1 school every 4 days or 8 classes per day on average. I would like to pause on that bullet and say that we put our infrastructure team in the department under immense pressure. A few of them, I've given them leave now. Their leave was cancelled, chairperson, over the December period to make sure that they can actually get to this point. And a few of them are on leave. But obviously, we're trying to get ahead of it. And there we got, in our picture there, a plasterer, a master plasterer, putting on some plaster on one of the schools. The Rapid Build project saw the completion of 5 new schools, the rate of build was 1 school every 4 days or 8 classes per day on average. Saxon C Junior High School took just 65 working days to build. And I'm certain that at some point, Chairperson, the committee will probably want to go see what that, what that is about, and I'm certain that you want. But I would say the committee should go see what was done there, because it truly is remarkable. So for 2023, grade 1 and grade applications as of 6 February 2023, at this point, we had a total of 26,079 grade 1s, grade 8, 95,882. Remember, in grade 1, the actual number of enrollments is closer to 100,000, because a lot of children come up from grade R into grade 1. That's why that is just the new applications that have been indicated there. Next slide, thank you. So, in the process of being placed in grade 1 and 8, I want to go through the slide slowly, so that we can just understand where we are. So the first is that we received timelessly by 15th April the amounts that we indicated. Of those applications that we received for grade 1 and 8, which are two entry points into the system, we only have 4 learners in grade 1 that technically we regard as unplaced, and 18 learners in grade 8 of those who applied on time. But as the note says there, their parents are unreachable or have not accepted the offer of placement. Parents are unreachable or have not affected the offer of placement. I want to pause on that point, because what I want to indicate is we noticed also in some instances, parents give a number. The number is unreachable. Now, maybe in the communication out, we will say parents should give a reachable number, but maybe that's also something that members, when they speak with their constituencies, to talk about. Please, people must give a reachable number, where we can actually reach parents. Received late after 15 April 2022, but before end of December 2022, there are 35 learners which still have to be placed and in grade 1, and 94 learners who still need to be placed. Received extremely late in 2023, in other words, people that arrived after January 1. There are 293 learners that are still must be placed in grade 1, and 1,032 who must still be placed for grade 8. That brings the total for grade 1 to 332 still be placed, and 1,144 for grade 8. That means we have 1.27% of our applications in grade 1 not placed, and 1.19% of our applications in grade 8 placed. If you were to look at that in another way, it means that more than 98% of grade 1s have been placed, and 98.8% of grade 8s have been placed at this point. So for the ones that have received late applications after 15th April, we have prioritized their placement, because obviously they've came to us in the year, even though they were late. They're not as late as any others, and all their parents are unreachable. That's why there's stars. However, I don't want to make this point, Chairperson. It's a very, very important point. The very, very important point is we will find a place for every grade 1 and grade 8. We will be able to offer a place for every grade 1 and grade 8. The difficulty we have in the system is that parents aren't happy with the place we offer, because they got their sights on another school. They want to go to Fazeka High School. They don't want to go to Livingston High School. And we offer a place at Livingston High. The parents says, no, I want to go to Fazeka High. But at Fazeka High, there aren't the places. At Livingston, we have the places. I'm just making an example now, hypothetical example. That is our constraint. And so I think the message has to go out to the community that it is better to apply early, because that allows better planning on our side. It also allows you to make better choices, and hopefully we see where these go. And just to make that point, Chairperson, we are committed for grade 1 to place every learner. We can go to the next slide. All grade 1 and grade 8 learners that have applied on time have been placed, except for the 22 are untraceable, as I've indicated. And I've also indicated for the further 129 learners who applied late, they're being prioritized. And maybe again to just emphasize, if the message can go out to parents that whatever information they put on the forms, it's got to be where we can actually contact them. Otherwise, it places us in an impeditious position. Because now what happens is we try and contact the parents. We can't contact the parent. The parent then complains that the department hasn't placed, but then we've said no, but we have. So then it becomes a he said, she said. Whereas if the parent puts the correct contact details down, the department is in a position to actually deal with that almost immediately. Total of 98.8% of grade 1 and grade 8 learners have been placed. And we're now focusing on the remaining 1.2%. And just in another way, we've given you a sense of what we told you there is on the unplaced, but what we just want to also indicate to you is that in 2023, extremely late applications that we received were 3,391 for grade 1 and 8, and we resolved 2,066 of those. We managed to place 2,066, so in the process of being placed 1,325. Now I want to talk about some of the challenges that late applications bring. I've spoken about spaces, but it's not only about spaces, Chair. I want to bring the committee an understanding of the challenges we face when parents apply late. So the first thing is that the applicants and the issues that they go into, it involves additional classrooms. It may involve transportation that we have to plan for, depending where it is. The issue of the fact that we have 3 official languages in the province. There's which language stream they choose, which is the higher language, which is the additional language, that matters. The subject choices matter. As to which subjects they want to choose, those are all matters. All of this requires discussion and agreement with the school's governing body and in some cases local municipalities. I think the department is aware that the members are aware that we do a 10-day SNAP survey. We're still finalizing that to determine where the needs lie so that a fair distribution of resources can take place in terms of the demand. The main emphasis of this slide is to say for the 2024 process, the message that must go out to parents is please do not wait till 2024. Make the application.
Apologies. I just want to ask that if you are on the online platform, that you just please mute yourself. We in the chamber here, you might not necessarily be able to hear if you're talking on the platform and in the chamber, and it might also create an echo. Thank you.
So I was just saying that the chairperson, thank you. I was just saying that the message that needs to go out is we shouldn't wait. We should apply when the system opens. Other challenges that occur with late applications is areas in which learners apply may be overpopulated. Then we need alternatives in other nearby communities to be sought, and that may require transportation, which obviously comes with its own cost pressures and also then affects planning. There are some schools with grade cohorts bigger than others, making placement in a particular grade within that immediate community difficult, particularly with siblings that require different grades. So sometimes it's not always possible to have what that is, to have both siblings in the same school. A learner could also have a specific language preference that is not accommodated at their closest school. Subject choices also need to be considered, as not all schools offer the same subject streams. And then obviously we have specialized needs of learners, but these also need to be taken into account. So on the placement plan for dealing with the situation that we have now, we do have 70 mobiles that have been procured for placement in areas of demand based on the CMS data and on the late applications. So what we're doing now as a department is just determining, okay, so where potentially should we place that mobile? Because it depends where the demand is, and is there aggregation of demand inside a particular area before we take that, before we put that mobile down. Once you put the mobile down, chairperson, there's a cost to that. So once you put the mobile down, the mobile is down. 70 mobiles are over and above the 842 classrooms we aim to build for the 2023 school year. An additional, as we also mentioned to the committee before in a previous briefing, an additional 1,143 teaching posts have been allocated for the 2023 school year. More than 90% of these posts have already been allocated. So basically you keep a few posts back depending on changes inside the year. It's a system that is dynamic. It does change. For the most part, 99% is fine. But some of it you have to give room to have changes. The 10-day SNAP survey figures currently being verified and will inform many of the interventions. Resource packs for learners have been printed and distributed at district offices for learners applying late. We also provided online support links. We sent that to parents for additional reading and at-home learning for those learners who do have online access and who perhaps would not have had a place. As far as learner materials are concerned, by the end of 2022, in preparation for the 2023 school year, we delivered 62 million rands worth of textbooks, 39 million rands worth of stationery, 50 million rands worth of furniture, 1.6 million rand of other equipment. As we know, due to the rapid build program, additional textbooks for the new schools were ordered and are being delivered. Further deliveries by 28 February of textbooks that are out of print, because that then becomes another issue. Only order so much, so people still have to print. Learner transport. All learner transport scheme applications received timelessly for 2023 have been processed and finalized by December 2022. Late learner transport applications, mainly related to the rapid build program and the opening of new schools late in November, have since been processed and being finalized in January 2023. Chairperson, then we also have the issue of vandalism at schools during the school holidays. There were a total of 48 incidents of burglary and vandalism affecting 42 schools, which were reported during the holiday period. This is an increase from the 41 incidents affecting 34 schools reported during the previous end of the year holidays. The WCD provides subsidies for holiday security at 439 schools. And we distributed a budget of 11.7 million for the 2022-23 financial year. The budget is distributed to the education districts, all 8 of them, who then can distribute the funds to schools for additional holiday security. I want to talk a little bit about the admissions 2024 process. So currently in the schools, there's advocacy in the schools with posters and pamphlets. Every school should have received such information. So if that is not there, invite the committee to inform us so that basically we can follow up with the schools, but our circuit managers obviously will go out to make sure that those things are in the school system. March 2023, we got advocacy in the media about upcoming admissions processes. 13th of March 2023, the admission process will be opened. I do want to say this to everybody in the room. Sometimes on the first day, Chairperson, when we open the admissions process, we have a flood onto the system. Now, when you take load shedding into account and all the other stuff, sometimes it affects it, but parents should not panic. If they apply between 13th and March up to 14th April, there's no priority order of. So if I applied on 13th April, but my neighbor applied on 31st March before me, they're going to be given priority before me. As long as you get in onto the system between those periods, everybody then is treated the same. We take all this, basically we take those lists and give it to the schools. These are all the applications that you receive in the schools, and the SGPs through the admissions policy then make a choice. I do know that parents have anxiety to have that application. I have empathy for that. I'm also a parent, although my children been through this long ago already, but I understand that. I just want to give parents the assurance that there's no prioritization in when they apply, wherever they must apply. in that period, and we will have pop-ups and so on to make sure those information is also in the schools as to where parents can go. The dates, committee will share that with the committee, that the committee can just see where we're going to be and they can decide which things they want to perhaps join. We sent a pamphlet to all primary schools and registered ECD facilities with the theme "Don't Wait." On the next slide, it gives all the information there. We've got pamphlets for all the exit grades. We've got posters for schools with the exit grades. We're going to have more activations, hosting of enrollment days. We're going to have radio adverts. We're going to have print adverts in the community papers, digital banners. We're going to have information around the same theme on taxis and the back of buses. We'll have them also on mobile and static billboards. We also have loud hailer services in communities and on social media. We'll promote posts that actually show that this is actually the system. Why we bringing this to the committee is to say, just like in Africa, there's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We are asking that we all play our role to make sure that we get these applications in. That's my appeal as the administrator of the system. We need our community leaders to support us to be able to be sure that people can actually do this. And then also to identify, as I know the committee is not hesitant to do, to SMS us and others when things don't go right, because then we try and fix it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So here's just a list of online admission assistance on the pop-up admission sites and so on, and the dates. Chairperson, we can also provide this in a better format for the committee so that you can just get the pamphlets itself. This is just to show that you've actually done that, but then we can give it to you, you can use it for the members. And Chairperson, I think that basically brings us to the end of the presentation, and to say that as we do this more, we get better as a department. The problem is education is high jump, you see. When you reach 1.6 meters, the bar is raised to 1.7. When you reach 1.7, it's raised to 1.8. So I think we are up for that as a system, and we generally believe we've done very well in the admissions process. We've got a few applications still to deal with. In the two entry grades of grade 1 and 8, I'd just like to give the numbers so you can understand what we are dealing with. That's 200,000 applications in those two grades. And at this point, we basically got about 1,000 or 2,000 that we must still sort out, just over 1,000 that we must still sort out. So we sorted out 199,000, 198,000 odd already, and these are the two that we still need to sort out. Chairperson, that's our story from admissions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. I'm going to ask that we just take a break because we've been sitting for 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I can hear Minister Mbombo in the back of my head saying, Deirdre, you must stand up and walk around. I want to say that on the NEC presentation, what we did in the beginning of the year before I went on the transparency program is, from my side as chair, I wrote to every single school that got 100% in terms of their pass rate. And the procedural officer assisted me in terms of, in my absence, just to make sure that those respective schools got their congratulations letter. Because in the environment that we are in South Africa, where we are fighting load shedding and drought, we are getting migration across provinces. Gauteng is having a very similar problem that we are having. It is important that we also celebrate those schools that have gone above and beyond in terms of their statistics. Before we just take the break, it is 10:09 now, so we're going to take a 21-minute break so that we are back at 10:30. I'll put the alarm on here. Is the alarm still here? Okay, the alarm on. And I just would like to remind everyone, I know we have a lot of guests here today, that we have a help desk that is outside that has been set up by the Department of Education. So please, we don't want you to leave and then your query or question has not been noted. I help a lot of my students in Laingsburg and in the Karoo, where my constituency is. My old constituency is now my new constituency again. And something I always tell them is we can't help you if we don't know what the problem is. So please assist us by telling us what those challenges are and how we can assist so that we are able to try and get through all of those queries as quick as possible. With that, the meeting is just suspended until 10:30. There are refreshments and tea and coffee in the lobby area. Thank you. Colleagues, just a reminder, it is 10:29. There is 53 seconds left on the clock and we are starting at 10:30 on the dot. If you wish to be at the help desk, you're more than welcome to conclude your query at the help desk and rejoin us for the meeting, but we are commencing again at 10:30 on the dot in 39 seconds. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. It is 10:30 on the dot. The timer that was set has run out and we are continuing with the meeting, especially for those online who might have been making coffee in the background. With that, colleagues, we had a rule that members will be able to have 2 questions per person. If you have more questions, please keep them for the next round. I will now be taking hands in the chamber and then I'll take hands online. I see Ms. Fry, Member Christians, Member Plato, and I saw online Member Mackenzie and then Member Kama in that order. Please remember 2 questions per member. If you have extra questions, please keep it for the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentations to the officials and to once again, good morning to all the members of the public. I have 2 questions, one on each presentation. The first one is for the presentation on the NSC exams, and it's actually one of the last slides about psychosocial support and trauma-informed classrooms and schools. I don't know what trauma-informed classrooms and schools actually mean, because how do we expect a learner who's gone through not just matric, but most of their school career, or their high school career anyway, dodging bullets and being subjected to violence at schools, violence and assault at the school, how do we expect them to do well? So if you can unpack the trauma-informed, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to a child who's been subjected to violence and gangsterism in the school? And then to the second question and to the second presentation, my question is, Mr. Walters, you said that there was you made an anecdotal an anecdote where you said that a school wants to go to school A, but then they're not accepted, but they go to school B. I actually have examples of people who lived near Apex High School in Easter River, where they live 7 minutes and 46 seconds walk away from the school, but they weren't accepted. But they were accepted to Malibu, and the parents don't have the transport money to get them to Malibu every month. But other learners were accepted from as far as to Kai, because there are 2 learners who weren't accepted at Apex, who live close by, but weren't accepted there. So I'd like to know what is the actual admissions policy for a school like Apex High to accept school learners from far-reaching areas, but not from the neighboring areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Member Christians.
Thank you, Chairperson, and I must say thank you to the department for all the efforts and the pressure that they work under. I just want to go to the first presentation to slide 8 and slide 18, and this is my concern. We have the performances of the metros, and we have 60% candidates who wrote the examination, and it gives you the bachelor's, diploma, and certificate results. Now, when we look at metros and so on, you don't actually see which schools are actually achieving, because it can be, a weak school can be placed in a district and you don't see, because when I looked at my computer and I saw the top 20 schools, it's still just your affluent schools that makes it, your private schools that's in the top 20. And when I look at the maths literacy and the pure maths, you know, for me, I don't know, you know, I think we must look at where is the problems and was there significant increase in those numbers in the disadvantaged schools. I think that's important, because if I look at districts, I know more or less, you know, Metro East, which schools are there and so on, but you don't know, and we've got the, you know, we speak about the figures in the districts, but specific interventions, and I'm still convinced, visiting schools, the head of the school, the principal makes a difference, yes or no. You know, I've heard stories of principals, how they run their school. And because of their strong leadership, you know, there's a difference. So the department can intervene with programs, but if you have not firm leadership at the school, you're going to struggle with those schools all the time. I mean, we can mention countless principals and educators that's committed. Unfortunately, that is not the case with all of our schools. So that is the first question. The question is, you know, it's good to look at districts, but I actually want to see, is there improvement in our disadvantaged schools? Because when you look at the top 20, and I had the list here with passing maths and passing 100% pass rate, it does not go down to the disadvantaged schools. So I still believe we do not have quality education in every school, although that is the motto of the department. The second question is, the district offices, if we can just get some, you know, people go to the district offices because of whatever reason for late placement and so on. Surely there should be merit in people for whatever reason. You know, you cannot just say somebody has made a late application, and I don't condone late applications, but I'm saying there should be merits to a case. You know, so I just want to know, because when people go to district offices and they are referred to district offices, one, they don't get sometimes assistance, and if they phone, the phone is ringing. That is the feedback that I get from communities. So it's, I don't know. We need to look at these district offices, and are our parents and pupils getting adequate assistance when they get there? So just that's my two questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Plato.
Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. Not really a question or two, but more a remark or two, if you would allow me. Let me use the opportunity to welcome the presentations. I think quite comprehensive. But let me also say, you know, we can ask 110 questions, but I also need to say to the department, the Minister and the HOD, with your staff, you're running a macro business. This is indeed a macro business. I think the turnout here today is a clear sign that parents rate the education of their children very, very high. And I'm very pleased with people even down here and that sort of thing. And but I need to say, under difficult circumstances, and there will always be issues, there will always be questions, there will always be remarks and that sort of thing. But I think in general terms, you are doing a great job. And we need to recognize that as well. To run a macro business of this magnitude, there will always be problems. It's a case of how you are dealing with the problems, how you are dealing with the issues. And it was good to see the Minister and the HOD this morning at the tables, talking, engaging, that sort of thing. That is indeed the right thing to do. We must show the public, the parents out there, that there is a great willingness and also a political will to address their concerns, to address the issues. Just one or two other secondary remarks.
Member Plato, you have made one remark, so you have one remark that you can make left. Because if you're going to use your questions to make remarks, then we're going to stick to two per member until the next round opens. So you have one remark that you can make left.
There's another 10 remarks in waiting. Okay, let me say, the school improvement program. That is a very, very positive sign from the department, but I think the remark of the HOD, we cannot plan properly if children just arrive. And we need to recognize and we need to note that as well. And I note the challenges the department are facing. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, my first question would be to the department. One of the things I've seen practical example, Princeton and Mitchell's Plain, the results went up, I think, from 50% to 60, then to 75% the last 3 years. And when I asked the teachers and the principals, they told me it was a paradigm shift and an attitude change, the soft skills. So what is the department doing to duplicate the attitude and paradigm shift of the teachers to ensure improve of results? Because there was no hard skills, it was soft skills. The second question would be on the infrastructure, second presentation. The department indicated, like we all know, the 18,000 learners that comes every year and the 1,000 learners per school. Where does the funding come from? And do the department have enough funding to provide additional 18 schools going forward every year? Thank you.
Thank you so much. For those who don't know, Member Mackenzie is also the chair for Public Works. I always appreciate when the chair of Public Works comes and sits in on education because infrastructure is very important to us. Member Kama.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also welcome the presentation. Chair, my first two questions will be on the NSC results, and then I'll keep the others for the later round. I think the first question that I want to ask, Chair, arises from page 8, and I think also page 11. I see if I look at the numbers in terms of your registered candidates and those who actually write at the end of the day, or I think there's a phrase that is used that I think 62 registered and 60,000 who wrote. And if you look in your 2021, you will also see that there's also about 2,000 learners that did not write. So if you check here, and even last year, you have about 2,000 learners that did not write. I want to check what are the possible reasons. Is it just no shows? And what are we actually doing about this? Because I think this about 2,000 learners that end up not writing when they would have been successfully registered as candidates, it's really a concern. The second question that I have, Chair.
Member Kama, I just want to check, are you on slide 8?
Yeah, 8 was just showing for, yes, but then if you check on 11, it then gives you both of the yes. Now, the other question that I have, Chair, is around the page 19 when it comes to access to higher education. And I want to ask, what work do we do within the department to really, because I get very much excited, Chair, unlike many when the national results come out and our provincial government always critique around the quality. I think that engagement around the quality of pass excites me very well. And I want to, and latching on what Member Christian says, what work are we doing to ensure that these learners do not only, because there are many learners that have a bachelor degree pass, but can't get to any program in the university because of the pairing of their subjects. What work are we doing in that regard? It was painful last week. Was it last week? It was painful when we visited Carlestop, and when I looked at the subjects, let alone the subject that one must choose, but all the subjects that are offered in the school, immediately I could say, these learners can't get into any university of technology. They can try and go to higher FET colleges, but reality is that they can have a bachelor pass but do not qualify for a particular program. One, there's no mathematics at all in the school, and the other subjects, and even the teachers as they talk. Once you say where are these learners going to go, everyone, all of them, they mention, is it the agricultural college, is it Ellisonburg or something like that? They all mention that college. And in reality, there is that all these ones that have passed now, and it's a question that I've asked, all of them that have passed the last matric exams, they are not in any higher education setup because of this subject. So the question is, what work are we doing from the choosing of subjects to ensure that we are going to produce learners that would access university, but access the certain programs in the universities? And if the department were to do an exercise now, all universities have many children that are flocking in for late applications. But if you can go closer to their results, you will see that many of them will end up being put in courses because they want to win a university, but they do not qualify necessarily for those courses. They have not been trained properly for those particular programs. So what work are we doing to ensure that what we produce is aligned with what is a requirement for the different programs in the higher education space? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Kama speaks to my heart, because in the Karoo region, I'm very passionate about mathematics, because without mathematics, there's very few degrees and courses that you actually can go study. Minister and department, you can allocate questions accordingly, and then I'll open for another round.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to hand over to to Brent Walters and the team to reply, and then I will supplement one or two replies.
Thank you. So I think we'll try and answer the questions between all of us here specifically, but let me have a hand at some of them. And then Arun, you can just follow up, Ellen and Heather, and if we miss out one, we can just add. So maybe just to thank you for the questions. Maybe just to start with admissions policy, which is the first question in relation to admissions policy. And remember, admissions policies, they are made by the schools themselves, whatever that admission policy is. Now, our system isn't like Gauteng's. Gauteng has feeder zones. The feeder zone system, and then, so basically, some schools will have proximity to a school that counts. Obviously, I think us as human beings, it makes logical sense, right? I mean, if you live near a school, you should be able to get to that school, which I think is the point that you had made. Question as to Apex School, we can find out from them, but this is one of our oversubscribed schools. Mr. Mayor has the stats, but this is the one where they got a few thousand applications for 200 places. So essentially, it's one of the schools of choice, Apex. And it may be specifically perhaps that learners' results weren't good enough, I don't know. But the major point that I'm making is admissions policy is actually at the school level. They actually decide. SGPs actually make the admission policy. SGPs decide that this is the admissions policy, and then the school obviously would accept learners. The overwhelming majority of learners at Apex High, a little bit I know about Apex High because we've just been here, the minister and myself come from the surrounding community of that school. So I think in a specific case, in a specific matter, we can maybe take up that matter. We can maybe just raise that specific matter, I think, with us. So then to the questions about Mr. Christians, Member Christians asked about whether schools in poorer communities are achieving. That's really your question. The answer is unequivocally yes. Yes, just that we're giving you a summary of the system. The availability of that information is there. It's there. Minister and I, we went to Hector Peterson and celebrated the 95% pass rate at Hector Peterson in the middle of Wallerstein, in a very poor community. There are many schools like that. The big indicator that you will look for on this document, which will tell you that we're improving, is the indicator that says how many schools have scored below 60% pass. Because that's the benchmark nationally. Obviously, we also got who has scored below 70%. But what you will see there is a gradual improvement over 5 years where fewer and fewer schools get below that percentage. So what that in fact means is that the system is then improving at the bottom end. And we will now put effort into those 30 schools. We've already identified where they are. Their principals already got letters from us. There's the districts and others. They will be doing stuff with those schools to be able to analyze where they you know, what are the difficulties that they have. I want to ally myself 6,000% with your comment about leadership. Now, it's a very interesting comment because we know this from organizational theory. This is not only true of schools. This is true of organizations. The leader determines down from the top where the organization will go, how it will actually perform, its reaction to the environment and everything. And therefore, the principal appointment is the only appointment in the system that is actually done by myself. I do those appointments myself. Now, the interesting thing is, where I disagree with the community to appoint a principal, because on the psychometric, or maybe use the wrong words here, my HR people, but you know what I mean, they do testing on their abilities, what they can do. If you want to be a principal, you must be able to supervise, you must be able to organize, you must be able to lead, you must be able to take pressure, you must be able to bounce back from pressure. So we've got a battery of tests that we put people through to show, does this person actually have what it takes to be the leader? Sometimes that information comes back and says this person, not on a frosty Friday, you'll be able to make sure that this person can lead, organize, supervise. And then the governing body says, HOD, I still want you to appoint this person. And then when I refuse, protest and finds its way into the newspapers. But we are very clear as a department. We know what it takes to actually run a school. I am new to the sector. My colleagues here, between them, probably 100 years of experience sitting here. And we know that strong leadership, principal leadership is very important. I have undertaken, which is something I've instituted, every principal association that exists, there are 3 of them, I meet with them once a quarter to speak about leadership. I'm also now on a situation where I'm on a campaign with novice principals. I just did a situation yesterday in the Central District at Kempsby High School. We had all the novice principals and deputy principals there. We had a whole day with them. I also get an opportunity to address them because we do agree with you that the leader does actually determine where the organization will get to, and firm leadership is very important. And for example, we heard yesterday testimonies of 2 principals, but specifically the one I want to point out is Bridgetown High School. The principal is a Mr. Windvogel. How he turned that school around over a period of time. Their pass rates, uniform, all the things that you mentioned, Mr. Member Christian, so let me agree completely with the comment that you have made. So now, you know, the question of mathematics is always a sensitive question. So the truth is there are many courses in university that don't actually require mathematics. But the scientific ones and the engineering ones and you know, some of the sciences, they require this level. They require that. The access to higher education, I just want to make the point that all these passes give you access to some form of higher education. Mr. Kama, just to jump because it's related. So we've got 3 levels, bachelor degrees, diplomas, and certificates. What that means is every single child that passes, except I think the endorsed certificates, no, even the endorsed certificates, they have some access to some form of higher education, whether it's TVET or technicons or universities, to just indicate that point. So maybe to make that point, but then also just to say, I think that acting CD districts is in the room. We've heard a comment that people phone the district and the phone is just ringing. However, I don't want to say this. We have a call center. So that number maybe as a system we must also popularize because the call center number is always answered. We've got people that just work on a call center. That's really wait in a queue and then you actually answer the phone. But again, yeah, in this case, it would be useful if the specific instance can actually be brought to attention through our officials. Say, look, people have phoned and then there's no reply. The districts at this time of the year are under pressure because of a few reasons. One of them is placement, which we've mentioned in this discussion here. But the other reason, I think, also is that it's not only about people finding place. It's also about some people being unhappy with the place that has been assigned to them. This is a natural thing, Chairperson. I have children, we all want the best for our children. And we're always striving to let us do better for our children. So those things do happen, but the phone is ringing. If there is specific instance where that does happen, I think just bring it to our attention, Mr. Christians, we will follow up. I'll make a commitment here in this meeting. We'll follow it up and make sure that doesn't happen. The phone needs to be answered. That's just a rule inside the department. There is also the call center. So they cannot be forgiven, but there may always be a reason, specifically when they phone, maybe they phone after hours, then the phone isn't answered. But we do also have the call center number. On the question of the comment of Mr. Plato, show we're running basically a macro business, that is true. Thank you for those comments. I know also that, you know, we do try and deal with many things inside the system. When we appear in front of committees, we generally talk about the stuff not going right. But there's a lot going right, Chairperson, in the system. And if you at schools and see the joy of students and what they're doing inside the schools, I think we see that. But thank you very much for the encouragement, the words of encouragement that you know that have been made. There was a question from Member Mackenzie on Princeton in Mitchells Plain. I think the question was, what is the paradigm that we give to principals? And because, you know, you mentioned there that it was improvement over time. Basically, they went from this to this to this. And you said it was a soft issues, if I remember your question correctly, Member Mackenzie, where they said, well, these are the soft issues and the soft issues count. Attitude does determine altitude. My guidance teacher taught me that when I was young, and it's true. Attitude does determine altitude. That's a Miss Kalia, but she's passed away now. Attitude is very old. I was very old at the time when she taught me and did quite a few. But attitude determines altitude. This is very true. This is very true. And that is why that answer to that question is linked to two things that we're doing as a department. I think one is choosing the right principal. Number two, when we have novice principals inside the system, to have a session with them. I am on a campaign to meet every novice principal and deputy principal in a room and spend an hour speaking about our own vision as a department, where we want to take things, how they can assist us to be able to achieve the things. Some of the districts have even started a system where platforms to address novice teachers. And there are many coming into our system now because there's an age code going out to be able to bring things together and make sure that in the end, the leadership then goes and improves the outcomes of the school. So the soft stuff, they do matter. And it then becomes a question of how our principals show up inside their schools, and we're spending a lot of time speaking with them as to, like, okay, so how do you actually get your team behind you? I mentioned one school here, Bridgetown, because that's in my mind, it was yesterday, but there's many others, many others, where we see that secure and very strong leadership. And there was a question in terms of infrastructure. So remember, we were given in a specific, over a certain specific time, certain amount of money for infrastructure. Roughly said 1,000 classrooms and 1,000 teachers, okay, at one level. And obviously, we make a pitch for those things, but the Treasury has to decide, is that available to be able to keep up with what we need to do. That's what I can say in relation to that. Obviously, we try and just make sure if we get the funding, we will build. The rapid build program demonstrated what can actually be done in a short space of time. But it did also come at a human cost to my team, so we need to just take our foot off the accelerator slightly because they're under a lot of pressure, but it can actually be done. Okay, so then we go to the 60,000 registered and the fact that 2,000 don't show up, which was the question I think of Member Karma asked that question. So why? It's not that we're not worried about that number, but the number is consistent. So in other words, when you deal with statistics, you look for trends. So is this within a norm for us? Yes, it is within a norm. So there are many reasons, Mr. Kama, why students don't. Many of these learners, I haven't got the age analysis of those who don't turn up. Maybe we can do that. But I suspect that if we took the age analysis, it would probably be overage, a lot of overage learners. Sometimes with overage learners, what happens is they're in school because they don't have a job option. If a job option comes up, they will rather leave school and take the job. That's one of the things that that does happen. Where we become worried is if that number is higher over time. And what we see there is a consistency with that number over time. Okay, then there was a question about access to higher education, but you guys can jump in. I know I'm answering everything, but you can please feel free to jump in. And then there was a question about FET, TVET, and choice of subject. If somebody can please answer that question. And I think we've done all. Whatever, I don't ever missed out. You want to add, any of you? Heather? Heather first and then that one.
Thank you very much. I would just like to pick up the issue of the phones ringing, as well as sometimes the reports on the lack of support when parents come to the district office. So I agree with our SG that there is no excuse for a phone ringing at a district office if there is no valid reason. Colleagues, I need to share with you though that when there is load shedding, then the phones ring. So what the caller will hear is not a dead tone or an engaged tone, but actually it sounds as if the phone is ringing. And as you know, there have been times when during a day, we have 3 slots of load shedding. So it would be good to get the specifics. Then as far as parents or reports that parents are not helped, I do want to refer to the last week of Jan and the first week of Feb, where our records show that we had close to parents or guardians of 10,000 children, almost 10,000, walking into our district offices across the province. And in fact, we had attended to all of those children and gone onto the system, captured new applications. And in fact, many of those 10,000 children's parents or guardians, they were not new applications. They were parents who were unhappy with the schools being offered to them. And they were also children who actually have a place in a school, but were looking for other places. I only managed to speak to 3 sets of parents in the queue outside, and all 3 sets of parents I spoke to, their children are currently in a school, and in this case, in the Eastern Cape, and the children aren't here, but the parents are here to try to get better prospects for their children. So thank you, colleagues.
Thanks, Chairperson and members. So on the question of the trauma-informed schools, you wanted more information. So just to give you a sense of perspective, there's about 400 secondary schools in the province. And our teams, our learning support teams and our program needs to respond to all of them. And there's a strong likelihood that the capacity that we've got is not sufficient for the need, for the extent of the need. And we're acknowledging the point that you're making, that particularly in the violence hotspot areas, the level of trauma will be very, very deep. So in addition to the generalized program that we've got, the department has been working together with the Department of the Premier and the Department of Arts, Culture and Sport on a pilot program in violence hotspot areas, where we've identified facilitators who get trained, and in the life orientation project, we've taken away these learners and provide additional therapy and support. And so far what the pilot is showing is that the learners are responding just to the fact that their particular emotional trauma is being given additional attention to the normal. But we acknowledge that it's a deep area and it requires much more than we're currently doing. On the question of the top schools, and as was indicated by SG, we can give you a school by school breakdown on where the schools have gone up, where they've gone down, what some of the reasons are. And when the NSC results first came out, I was just struck by Mr. Meyer's reaction. His reaction was exactly like yours. We need to get the school principal and the school leadership right in some of the schools. That's the core of the turnaround strategy. So I think we're on the same page on that one. And then the issue of the teacher morale. So I think about 2 or 3 years ago, the department adopted it was the year of the teacher. And that was basically a build on to a national program on constantly recognizing the value and importance of teachers. So the department has continued to do that. As we speak now, our NSC team, our FET team is sitting in George, and they are busy having discussions with all of the teachers on the outcomes of the NSC results. And the way we structure those sessions is on a professional a level of professional respect. And throughout all of these interactions, the theme is on how do we motivate, inspire, and lift the morale of the teachers. There is the National Teaching Award that we run, and World Teachers Day program, in addition to all of the points that I've mentioned. On the issue of the 2,000 learners who did not turn up to write, you'll notice in the slide that we shared with you that year on year, we've been able to reduce the number of learners who are not turning up to write. So that's telling us that we're moving in the right direction. Obviously, 2,000 is still a big number. We did have a discussion about what it is that we can do within the department to reduce that, but just to indicate that in that cohort of learners, there are learners who are ill or who become prone to accidents and so on. So it's not just learners who become disengaged, but we're recognizing that perhaps we need to do much more about it. At a national level, you would have noticed when the NSC results were announced, there was a strong focus on the encouragement of learners to rewrite, the Second Chance program. So that's one of the macro initiatives we've got available to respond to that particular problem. Then the question of access to higher education. We have recognized the difficulty that has been raised. If there are specific instances, we'd like to know about them, because I think in terms of the configuration that we've got, our success rate is fairly high. But there are, we do recognize that there are learners who fall out. There has been a program of revising the economic development strategy of the province, and the coordinators of that program have actively involved the education department in that process, and we're in the process of supporting a process where career guidance will be given an uplift, an interdepartmental and also a whole of society approach, so that we can make sure that learners make the right subject choices already at grade 8. They're aware of the right choices that they need to be making. So we're paying much more attention to that. And SG has also raised the question of a gap in the system where between basic education and higher education, we don't have a tracking system. So when the learners leave our grade 12, there's no national system of tracking where those learners go. But within the province, we've had a discussion about the possibility of setting up that tracking system. Yeah, I think I've covered all the points. Thank you very much.
SG, I just wanted to correct the SG. It was 2,857 learners who applied to Apex for grade 8, not 3,000. Slight over. So of 2,857 applications to Apex, Of that 2,857, 364 were accepted for grade 8. And I may just add that the school has been quite accommodating in the sense that they're also exploring an online capability for learners. And so they have learners in a mass room where they're also trying to accommodate more learners, you know, with quality teaching that is provided at their schools. I also want to come to the question of member Christians around, you know, the spending in underprivileged schools and what support we do give them. Every district has a district improvement plan, and underperforming schools are included in there in terms of saying what is the additional support we will be giving those schools. But I agree and fully support the view that good leadership makes the difference. And linked to that, we will be starting a leadership academy in, I think it's in April. 1st of April, we're launching our leadership academy at the CTLI, expressly for that purpose, to grow much stronger leadership within our schools. But to come back to the underprivileged schools, every school is offered support in terms of tutoring, as well as meals and sometimes even transport for learners who need additional support throughout the matric year. And so that is a standard practice. We even take learners for a weekend from their specific community. We place them in another hostel, in another community where the focus is on academic support for that weekend. While they are there, we cover meals, we pay for the transport, everything. And we also include a very strong psychosocial support program at those interventions as well. So we have our psychologists, our social workers at those sites to provide learners with tools of how to cope, you know, with the academic pressure of grade 12, and also to cope, you know, with the possible failure at the end of the year, and not see it as an end of it all, but actually just an opportunity that they now have to go back, you know, and pick up where they've had difficulty with the subjects that they've failed. And so the idea is to provide that support ongoing. And a large percentage of those HSIP high school improvement programs in the districts are focused at underprivileged schools in providing best tuition to them, whether it's resources, calculators, for example, is something that we purchase for learners in very poor schools for mathematics, but also for maths literacy, which is the larger majority of learners in our schools. So there's a lot of support that goes. And of course, whenever we have these even after school interventions, that the schools are able to apply for funding to feed the learners, you know, with a sandwich in the afternoon while they're coming for the academic program sharpening up. I think I've covered the questions around the soft skills of Member Mackenzie as well, in the sense that the psychosocial support that we provide during the camps and the tuition sessions, you know, is all part of building the self-esteem of learners, you know, and also on the mindset, you know, that they would need to have going into the matric examinations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to supplement three responses to the Honourable Christians. I don't want the impression to linger that it is only our private schools that achieve. I think Brent Walters has made the case very eloquently for the Hector Peterson Secondary School, where we celebrated their matric results, which were absolutely outstanding. They had a target of 85% and achieved very close to 95%. But that school underlines the very important point that you made, because the principal is absolutely outstanding. Not only is a great teacher, not only is a great principal, but he's actually an outstanding, charismatic school leader. And it shows when you visit Hector Peterson Secondary School. And of course, as Ellen Meyer has told us, we are going to significantly increase our investment in the leadership and our principals here in the Western Cape. We also shouldn't forget that COSAT, a high school in Khayelitsha, which you might be familiar with, and probably are familiar with given your almost longer experience in the sector than even myself, produced the second placed, if I recall correctly, quintile 2 learner, not just in our province, but indeed nationally. And he joined us at the National Matric Awards in Johannesburg. And also the top physical science student in our province, which was an absolutely outstanding achievement. And then, of course, there was South Peninsula High that had 4 learners in our top 40 matriculants. So it's not just our private schools that are achieving. And I think, SG, that we should consider inviting not just the chairperson, but also indeed the members of the committee to our matriculation award ceremony at Leeuwenhof, so that you can celebrate these outstanding achievements with the matriculants here in the Western Cape. So that's the first point. The second point is on infrastructure. And that was, of course, that question was put by the Honourable Ricardo Mackenzie. Now, infrastructure funding, I mean, principally, as members will know, comes from 2 sources: national government in the form of the education infrastructure grant, but then, unlike many provinces, there's also a significant top-up to infrastructure spending from the provincial equitable share. And as honourable members know, there was a very significant top-up in 2022, where the province, if I recall correctly, added 830 million rand over the medium term to infrastructure, which means that this year we have the biggest infrastructure budgets, somewhere to the tune of 2.5 billion, which is the biggest infrastructure budget we've had in a long term. And that has been part of the reason that we've been able to roll out the Rapid School Build program. And of course, honourable members would not be surprised that we are obviously seeking additional funding on top of the already additional funding for infrastructure, so that we can sustain an even more ambitious Rapid School Build program over the medium term here in the Western Cape. I was also then just finally struck by what I thought was a very good question from the Honourable Khama about the, let's say, pathway out of basic education into higher education. And I was very struck by exactly this point when I spoke to matriculants at the Hector Peterson High School, who were about to receive their matriculation results. And we talked about their wonderful ambitions to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be accountants, to be nurses, all requiring higher education. And of course, each one of them expressed concern about exactly what you talked about. And indeed, I mean, it was the challenge was brought into even sharper relief, Honourable Khama, when I spent time with many of our top 40 matriculants here in the Western Cape at Leeuwenhof. Now, given their outstanding performance, in every case, learners had places at universities, but had not necessarily in each case secured finance. And so I've taken responsibility for and asked the department to be in touch with each of our top 40 matriculants to ensure not only that they do have a place at a higher education institution of their choosing, but also that they have secured finance. And if they have not secured finance, to see what the department can do to match each of the learners with finance, which I think will make some difference. But I do think, as Harun Mohammed has said, I think we can do more as a department to create pathways from basic education into higher education. And perhaps one simple idea. When I visited, and we talked a little bit earlier about Apex High School, one of the resources which the collaboration partners had, as it were, established at the school was to employ a person, a guidance counselor, specifically to engage with, at that time, I think grade 11 and grade 12 learners about their futures. And I think, if I recall correctly, I visited in August, and at that time already, I think 47% of that year's, and I speak under correction, it might be, but a significant proportion of the learners in the grade 12 class had already received a pre-acceptance to some form of higher education, either universities or indeed higher education. So I do take the point, and I think it's an area of work which we need to explore and find ways to improve pathways from basic education into higher education in the Western Cape. But I take that point very seriously, and I share your view. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. And I think something that we can also take away from that particular round is perhaps we need to ask the Higher Education Department and NSFAS to come and have a conversation with us as well here in the Western Cape about what is happening. Something that the Minister does know is that I assist my youth in the Karoo with the applications, because sometimes the most difficult thing is just applying. And the biggest problems that my youth have had in the Karoo, now that they've been accepted to universities, is NSFAS is not replying, NSFAS is not paying out, registration date of university is coming out, universities need the letter of NSFAS. There are 2 of my students who are now studying electrical infrastructure at Vredenburg who applied for boat building and shipbuilding because at the one college, NSFAS just did not communicate with the one college, so they decided to go to a different college. So I do think in many of our constituencies, we have this problem of what do you do when you've been accepted but there's been no finances. And it is unfortunate that higher education doesn't fall within our provincial mandate specifically. I'm opening up for the next round of questions, and I saw Member Christian's hand first, and then Member Syed, Member Kama, Member Mackenzie. Let me just write this down, sorry. Okay, and then if there are no other hands, I will take the last slot. We do have 39 minutes left. So please, if you could keep your questions brief and the context for the questions also briefer, if that is even a word, then we would be able to get through the last 39 minutes of the meeting. Thank you. In that order.
Thank you, Chair. I think the explanations were very fruitful and enlightening. I just want to maybe just look at some of the answers we got. So Mr. Mayor mentioned that we have looking at the principles and the leadership programs. And he also mentioned that there is the support for struggling learners. So I want to know how many schools, maybe we can get that in an answer, but how many schools actually use this opportunity? It's out there, but do the schools actually use that opportunity to support our learners that needs the extra help? So I just thought that is maybe important. The other thing, Member Kama mentioned it, but it's subject choices. What about a child that is not close to a school that can give them pure maths? Let's take last time when Mr. Mayor was here, he said, when we look at Manenberg High, they offer, but there's a lot of other students that doesn't have access because it's limited capacity. So what do we do with a child that's got true potential, but there's no access to that? How do we determine that, and how do we assist such learners? Because it's extremely difficult sometimes for our learners to get into schools, as Member Fry said, because the HOD also mentioned that now the admissions is now the SGB's policy. So I don't know if that is right, because is there not bias towards certain learners? Because of, so that is a red flag. So just a question there, is it at the right authority for the SGB to make that decision? And maybe if you look at it legally, it's mostly right, but is it in the best interest of the school? This is a classic example, and maybe it's for, because when we've been to, I'm just going to give this last example, when we've been a few years ago to Mitchells Plain Mondale High, and they're doing excellent. But Spine Road is number one. We know that. But Mondale is doing exceptionally well. But then Mr. Bridgens, I don't know if he's still there, he said to us, listen, this is the amount of learners that apply, because everybody wants to be at Mondale. But unfortunately, this is just the amount that we can take, because this is the capacity. So you have many of these examples, and some of our learners then, fall off the way or something like that. So I'm very concerned when it comes to, because what Mr. Breezen said to us, the one thing they look at, because we want to do well in matric exams, we take the best, and the rest suffer. So you see, that is a kind of bias to the child that maybe have 79%, but the child ahead of them, it's got 80%. So, but there's potential. What do we do? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Syed. And please do not follow Member Christian's lead in what the brief should mean.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also welcome the input from the department, but let me also just say, caution there again, that look, again, we received the presentation late. I just want that to be noted. So preparation becomes a bit of a challenge. Just want that to be noted. Look, Chair, the first one, it's a follow-up. This issue of the classroom sizes. Now, it also ties into Member Kama's point, I think, around the quality of matric passes, making it difficult for learners to have access to institutions. I mean, we were last week in Calitzdorp High School. We've got 78 learners in one class. That is totally unacceptable. Member Fry was with us as well, and Member Plato. Now, we've been asking, I want to know whether the department is considering to look at ensuring that at least you put a cap, because you've got schools, public schools, because former Model C schools are public schools, where there are less than 35 learners in a class. But then there's a school in Mitchell's Plain, there's a school in Atlantis, there's a school in Calitzdorp, and many other areas that they've got 50 learners in a class or 60 learners in a class. Is there no way that we can ensure that there's a cap, for example, to say, look, you cannot be having so few learners in the classroom. We are going to make sure that learners who are applying elsewhere, so that they don't put pressure on poor and working class schools and on those teachers, can actually go to these other schools. That's the first one, and I think we need to move much more firmly in that regard. Then number two, because I'm allowed two, right? Yes. Yeah. Then number two, because I want to give more time, I think, to the public as well. Yes, there are members of the public that are here, and I'm glad that the department are assisting them. But this in itself represents a crisis. Not every member of the public, I've got emails and the department knows it. Ms. Van Niekerk and Mr. Titus know it. The bulk of the issues that I've been taking forward to the Department of Unplaced Learners are learners whose parents applied on time. So I think we want to just get a sense as to what are some of the bottlenecks when learners have applied on time and it's still difficult. And I understand there's the issue of parents wanting a particular place, the particular school, but actually, in many cases, we also have cases where that's not the case. The parents wanting a choice is they're saying, no, look, transport issues are playing a role. Moving away because of a job. Language medium as well. That's not just the parent wanting a choice. Now, I want to be at, yes, there are those, and we assist. Mr. Walters knows we educate when parents go say, no, you can't be so choosy. But particularly on these issues which are essential and which have an impact on the product and on the development of the learner, surely those must be taken into account. What measures are being put in place to look into those bottlenecks? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm actually going to frame my question similar to what Member Syed's asking. I think the same parents complain to both of us sometimes. I just wanted to say, where do the learners come from? the learners that applied late? Are they from schools opposite the school in Mitchells Plain? Let's say school Mitchells Plain, for example, school in the districts, school in the metro. Are they from schools in the province? Where do they come from? Because that will help me understand about the lateness in the process. If you can just give us that, please. Thank you.
Member Mackenzie, I just want to make sure, are you forfeiting your second question?
Yes, Chairperson, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
No, questions are not transferable.
Member side, no.
Okay. Thank you so much. As always, I try my best to keep my questions for last, but majority of them have been dealt with. So I have one question and one remark. I just want to say that it has truly been unprecedented for the Department of Education to be working through a festive season on infrastructure. To have negotiated with construction unions, to have been able to get people. I think anyone who has ever tried to undertake building work through the festive season would know the challenges that comes with people ending work at a certain time and then starting up in the new year again. So I just want to say congratulations on being able to ensure that we have these over 600 new classrooms, 5 new schools, and 1 school having been built in 65 working days. I don't think we truly emphasize the magnitude that such a project entails. And I welcome the fact that 98.8% of the learners so far have been placed. It is also an improvement on last year. I checked my records from last year, and I appreciate that every year that we come back here that we are able to see improvement. My question is, because I love the Western Cape Education Department's online resources, and it's mostly because I'm in a rural constituency where sometimes internet is the only way that you can assist with something. Some schools don't necessarily have the mathematics. And even the Funda mate that helps you with the homework is absolutely amazing on WhatsApp, where you can ask a question and they can help you with the mathematics and the reading and what the questions for matric exams and so on. But I wanted to find out, how can we use the online resources and access to the WCED website that already has so many answers and information on it, to be able to reach those constituencies where maybe we are struggling with the mathematics, maybe we are struggling with the physical sciences, in order to make sure that where we can't necessarily build a classroom for only maybe 1 or 2 students who want to take mathematics, but we try to get them in to the stream of being able to take mathematics and physical sciences. We live in a digital age, and we need to be able to use every single resource at our disposal to help students, particularly in the rural areas. Thank you. Oh, apologies, Member Karma. Did I miss you here? Hi, ek is baie jammer.
No, thank you very
Your
much.
2 questions, thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I won't be long. The first one, Chair, I wanted to, I think it's a follow-up to a response that was given around the admissions policy. And I think Member Said would have been raising this issue for some time. I want to check what is the impact of these schools using their own admissions policies to admit the learners first and in the whole process of admissions. Because in reality is that you, like what Member Fry would have said, is that you would have situations where members of the public are complaining that I'm close to this school, I applied in time, but I did not get this school. But have instances where there are people who are not from around this school who are getting access into that particular school. And it's also a reality, maybe we can debate it, but I hold a very strong view that there are certain schools who uses these admissions policies to keep other learners out of their schools. That's a reality. Why is the department not thinking about? Because I think the main point that we must not miss here is that it is their right, these learners, to be in a school. It's a right. I think that's the main point that we must not miss, is that they have a right to be in a school, and the department has that responsibility to ensure that they are in a school. So is there a thinking in the department around the issue of revising the whole issue of admissions policy being at the level of the school itself, than having a uniform standard admissions policy that will give everyone an opportunity, a fair opportunity to apply in every school that is in the ambit of this particular department? The last question, Chair. The additional 1,143 teaching posts that are allocated, I would just want to get an understanding of how these are allocated. There is a sentiment that some schools, these posts are used, to get other schools to admit more students in this time of crisis. And if that's the case, I would have a problem with that, because as the system is now, we have schools, different schools that have been, complaining about lack of enough teachers. Calisdorp, I think, it's one of the schools that also was complaining about the lack of teachers in the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Member Khama, and apologies again for missing you in that round. Minister and Department.
Okay, thank you very much for that round of questions. We're going to try and answer them as best we can. Maybe just to start off first with Member Christians, to get an understanding of how many schools use the opportunities. Probably in the district, people can perhaps say what they do in relation to that. Obviously, we all want quality places, which is really what this conversation is about. Okay, so as systemically as an institution, what we focused on is looking at how can we create more schools of choice, because that's really what this is. We have statistics on, for example, you mentioned Mondale. I know, Mr. Mayor, Mondale, how many applications? 3,000 something. You accurate? Also about 3,000 applications for Mondale for 200 places, roughly. So, here's the problem statement for the department on this, right? What are the ingredients that make a school of choice? Which is what we're obsessing with. Like, we discuss this all the time. Why is it that two schools can be next to each other, but the one, 3,000 applications, the other one, they don't have applications? Part of it is leadership. It's a multitude of factors. It starts though with leadership. We've identified that, which is why I answered the question about strong principles. You mentioned Mr. Bridgen's name here. One of our strongest principles in the Western Cape, Mr. Bridgen. He doesn't take drama, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bridgen is a strong principle. He doesn't take drama. Now, the thing about, I'm not saying that you must have a principal who doesn't take drama. All I'm saying is that that translates itself into a strong setup in his school. Things are organized. There is discipline. These are the issues. And parents know the environment. And this is where you can walk, and that's where you can't walk. And it's very much like that. And the school is run properly. Now, the question is, Minister mentioned in his response, Minister's response, Hector Peterson, what we saw there was strong leadership. When we went to the school, every child has a uniform on. The school is full. Every child has a uniform on. There's order in the school. Principal himself is teaching. So I think these are the elements which will tell us, how we actually get to a point where we must obviously be working towards the point where we can make more schools of choice. I think question, I want to, just on member side's question on, is it a crisis? I don't agree with you, sir, with respect. We do not have a crisis. I have been explaining to this committee in detail in the numbers, Jay. I'm a mathematics person. Let's understand numbers. We have in the system more than 1.1 million children. I don't know if you know how big that number is. Let me explain how big that number is, just to give people who are not mathematicians a sense. You take a school assembly of 1,000 learners. And imagine 1,000 assemblies of 1,000 learners standing together. That's 1 million. It's a mega system. So when Mr. Sayed says, and I don't agree with it with respect, gave us the names, yes, thank you, but his learners aren't placed in grade 1 and 8. And his learners on time, that is not true from the stats we have here. I have put to the committee, Mr. Sayed, that received timelessly by 15th April, there are for grade 1, 4 learners unplaced. The reason, the parents are unreachable. For learners who have applied in time for grade 8, there are 18 learners unplaced. And the reason is parents are unreachable or have not accepted an offer of placement. Now, that's not to say, Chairperson, that members of this committee mustn't bring stuff to attention. I do appreciate it. Because especially Mr. Sayed, he does give me a lot of intelligence. You say, Mr. Walters, this is happening and that's, I do appreciate it. But I'm just saying, let us not say there's a crisis when actually there isn't a crisis. Fact of the matter is, for a parent, there is a crisis, the individual parent. As they're sitting here, they say, but my child is in place. That is a crisis for the parent. It's not a systemic crisis. And that's very important to understand that. I have made a commitment here. Every learner in grade 1 and 8, the 2 entry points to a system, will be offered a place. And part of this rapid build, part of what this presentation is doing, is trying to give the committee the assurance that that will happen. Because even at this point, perhaps we don't have the place, but in the presentation you will see we've spoken about 70 mobiles that we have, that depending where the conglomeration of need is, we can place, which means we will actually place these learners. So I don't think that it is a crisis, and I do believe that in the end, we will get better at it. And we will get better because this committee keeps us on our toes, and also because the committee brings stuff to our attention. So thank you very much for that, because it does help us to be able to actually improve our situation. I think thank you very much for the comments of the chairperson. Congratulations to the school board team. The magnitude of what we have been doing. And the truth is that we did let our infrastructure team work across the holiday. It's not something I would like to do again. If I don't have to, but if I have to, we have to. But it is the commitment is there. I'm going to ask Juan if he can answer the question on the question on the digital that was asked about. How can we use online resources to be able constituencies to actually engage with it, and how do we get into the digital as our students? If one could maybe just answer that question, and then I think that's from my side. I think just on the admissions policy, I think the issue is that at the moment that is the situation. Schools through the SGPs, through the law, as you indicated, they're allowed to actually make their own decision. I think our job as a system is to try to influence that in the best possible way. Our response as a system has been to say, be fair, be upfront with parents. I know there are also situations where minister deals with where parents can actually appeal to the minister if they feel they've been unfairly dealt with. For example, one of the things you mentioned is the child lives next door to the school, but now the school doesn't even consider. So there are parents who have actually appealed to the minister, and some of them successfully in relation to that. But I think those are the questions I can answer, Mr. Juan, if you want to just add, and then Minister, you can also add. Thank you.
Chair, thanks for the question on the blended learning and the access to it to underpin mathematics. It's something the department is doing. At a departmental level or provincial level, we have a telematics program that beams out of Stellenbosch University. And it's particularly focused on our high schools. Then within the department, you've acknowledged the e-portal, which is an enormous resource that we've put in place over the last number of years. It's currently being considered for an entire upgrade, given the lessons we've learned out of the pandemic. At district level too, all districts have online platforms, and schools have
access to those. And then as part of that rollout, we are chunking the curriculum on all subjects, including mathematics, that allows subject advisors via teachers to learners send out WhatsApp video notes as well as recordings to learners as and when required. We also, with DCAS, are embracing an at-home learning program that is rolling out, particularly in rural districts, to allow the assistance attached to that program to assist learners outside of schooling time. We've also been asked by the Minister to ramp up our math strengthening strategy. We are currently putting together a fairly systemic response to that and are under pressure to finalize that over multiple years, which we are doing currently. And then the last thing I just want to mention on it is that we also have a system that we are piloting across districts and schools, which is called C2C, where a top teacher is being streamed either in a school to another class. So you might have in a school a teacher who's highly competent in mathematics, and that lesson is actually beamed into other classrooms and timetabled that way. We also have something called school to school, where a top teacher in one school, that lesson is being streamed into other classrooms at other schools. And then we have something called the district to school model, where at district level we have tutors put in place over holidays and Saturdays, and that streaming is then happening into multitude of schools. The emphasis again is particularly on the 4 rural districts who may be challenged to get to a good teacher. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Again, just to respond to the Honourable Khalid Sayed. I mean, again, to echo the sentiments of the department. I mean, this is not a crisis, but as I said in my opening remarks, we do concede that there is significant pressure in relation to admissions in the system. And indeed, I spent a few minutes speaking to a family from Mitchell's Plain who are struggling to get a place for their daughter, who in this case has special needs. And I think Brent is right. That is a crisis for the parents, and it's precisely for that reason why we will do everything we can to assist those parents, and why indeed we put a help desk outside this committee meeting. On the question of access and capacity, my inclination is to rapidly expand access by rapidly expanding our capacity to build new schools, and also, as the department has said, to expand the numbers of schools of choice, like Spine Road and like Mondale High School. On the whole questions of admissions, of course, in terms of the Constitution and the law, admissions does remain the responsibility of the school governing bodies. But I think it's important to point out that the admissions policy must, of course, be consistent with the Constitution, must be consistent with national policy, and indeed cannot unfairly discriminate. And it's precisely for that reason that where parents or indeed guardians feel that there may have been some kind of unfair discrimination in the appeals process, they, of course, in terms of the law, are entitled to appeal that decision to me. And we have a very rigorous process in reviewing those admissions decisions, and in some cases, we uphold the appeals. So there is a mechanism for parents who may feel that in an admissions process their child has not been fairly treated. Those parents, of course, are welcome to appeal that decision to me as the responsible minister. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm not going to open another round of questions because there's 12 minutes left of the meeting. And I just firstly wanted to check whether everyone from the public have gone to the help desk to note concern or their query or thing that they need assistance with the department. Just if there's nods, no. Have you gone to put your details down? Yes, no, no. Okay. So what I would like to, oh, sorry, still more answers. Oh, sorry.
Just we've received 68 people outside, which our staff has assisted. 10 are new applications that arrived this morning to be captured. So we've captured that onto our system now. The 58 were follow-ups on placements. Most of the parents I spoke to were not aware that they actually had a place at the school. And so we've directed them to the school as the staff at the tables could assist them in that way. So we will go through the list when we're back at the office now again of the 10 new applications and then look at how we're going to deal with them and where we're going to be placing them. Thank you.
The reason I'm just asking for the nod, I see a hand up there as well. The reason I'm asking for the nodding and of the heads is because unfortunately in 15 minutes one cannot take approximately 70 hands. That's specifically why I'm asking. So if it's a general matter and I see the hands, that's something that cannot be noted at the table, I'm going to take those now. So please, if it's a particular thing like Deirdre had 9 offers, but I don't want any of the 9 offers, that is something we do need to be able to assist at the help desk. And the minister or the department is not necessarily going to have the answer for Deirdre specifically, but if we can deal with the other questions now so that we are able to get answers for those. Miss, you had a hand up. I'm not sure if everyone's going to be able to hear you up there, especially on the online platform. You may stand. Thank you.
I've been dealing with my son since grade 9. There's one question I'd like to answer. So maybe that you guys understand that I think mentioned about getting into school without going to the system. How does this happen? Without going to the SGB. But I was here I want to answer, but never mind. I experienced this recently. My son attended a primary school in Mitchells Plain. He was an extremely good athlete at primary school. The high school actually fetched him, asked me if he could participate in their school sports and represent them for the high school. I wasn't very clear about it. I thought it was just like games that they were playing or everything until I actually came to realize but they are using my son for their school, for their whatever it is, the sports teacher, whatever titles, or whatever it is that is getting. Nevertheless, my son went to that school eventually. Other than that, he was used for sports. When COVID came, no more sports. My son was no longer needed. My son was no longer useful to them. But they threw my son under the bus, meaning he is big. He sat there, actually asked him to leave because I didn't want to speak all of this in front of him and in front of my niece, in front of all of you. And teachers then eventually started picking on him because of his body size. He was physically assaulted by a teacher. I took this further with the principal. Nothing was done. My son wasn't allowed to hit back. My son wasn't allowed to defend himself at school. But other learners and other boys was allowed to bully him, to hit him, and to whatever it is because of his body size. His body size was always thrown in front of him. Eventually, I took him out now, Jones, before the school exam started because of something that also happened. I was referred to the department. A social worker was busy with me because they weren't happy that the principal allowed him to take him out. Nevertheless, I will leave that as the past. I would like the department to help me, assist me with this actual school and this principal. My niece that was sitting here, she's out of school 2 years now. At the very same school, the very principal, she was raped by 2 of the learners at this very school. She had to leave school. But these 2 learners was allowed to stay at school. The department says that they are allowed their education, they have the right to education, and to understand that. So that I came today here to register again with the department yesterday, so please, I beg of the department to help assist her go back to school. Where my son is concerned, I've been at the school since last year. I've got the permission from the school. I've been through all the protocols that the principal asked me, going to SGB, everything. I was promised by the principal, all documentation was given to this man. A week before school started, I went to school just to confirm if everything is fine because I needed to buy his uniform. No, it's no longer the principal now. All documentation of my son is gone. I've been out of work now for about 2 weeks, almost every week, 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. This week, last week, the week before. Tomorrow I'm going to sit in the disciplinary hearing because I have to stay at work again today to be here, to come here. I've borrowed money, I think about 2,000 rand for this 4 days, for up and down, for petrol, up and down, for buying my son uniform, because I was told at the school, my son will attend, not attend, he needs to go to school like this morning. Yes, I can purchase his uniform, but he's going to choose his subjects. I got home, half an hour later, I get the call again from the receptionist. Mrs. Lekay, don't bring your son tomorrow. We need to get the teacher needs to get permission from a Sam McCormick. I mean, for me as a parent, me as a mother, it's a crisis. And I need the department to make it. I've been all over. We phone is concerned of the department, it's the honest truth. They do answer. What happens? You transfer your call to the next extension. It goes to the next extension, nobody answers. Call goes down. You try and call back. Sorry to get a transfer, exactly the same thing. These calls are not free. Even the call center calls are not free. It costs you like a 50 rand, 80 rand just to hold on. Answer, the person answers, now you have to wait, the gets transferred, you listen to what beautiful music there, airtime is out. And how frustrating is that? By the time the person answers, God is the call. So please, this is a crisis to a parent. Sorry, Mr. Waters, I'm one of your ex-learners at Livingston High School. You were amazing, sir. Mr. Edmonds, Mr. Bader, I don't understand why you say you're not a mathematical. You were my math, sir. I sat here, I didn't know it was you, but your voice.
Ma'am, you knew. So, ma'am, we'll take it up. We'll take it up with this parent afterwards.
I'm happy to hear that HOD Walters is brilliant at mathematics, but I do have to take cognizance of the fact that we have 4 minutes left of the meeting, and I'm trying to get to the urgent matters that cannot be helped at the help desk. I'm going to go from left, lady in red. I think it's Fadika, and then it's the lady in the striped shirt here in front of me, gentleman in the blue, lady in the black at the back. And then I'm going to, and then the lady with the blue. Colleagues, please, if it's relating to Deirdre specifically, I don't want one of my 9. We do need to deal with those with the help desk. I'm trying to deal with some of the urgent general matters so that, because I don't think the minister or department will have an answer for one particular child, but we might be able to assist with the general problem. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. So I have a very serious situation at the moment. My daughter, was a victim of sexual assault at Norman in Shoredai. This was last year. She started grade 8. There was a function at the school, and this is where it happened. I picked her up. She was very disorientated, but I didn't know what was wrong with her. The next week, she spoke to the counselor at the school, and she brought the matter forward. The school did nothing to assist me. We only went into a meeting with the boy and his parents. They did not fill in a Form 22. They did no disciplinary, and they never really contacted me after that again. She's been having panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And she's my only child. I've seen her bedridden. I've seen her almost on her last. And because of that, she missed a lot of school. It got so bad that I had to take her out of the school at the beginning of the 4th term last year because she couldn't anymore. And the counselor told her she needs trauma counseling, but the school never ever assisted her. I then had to look for a trauma counselor for her. I put her in another school, in a better space, just so that she can finish grade 8, so that she can pass and move on to the next grade. I then said, you know what? As a parent, I didn't know what to do. Her health was more important to me, and I had no energy to fight at that time. Eventually, we got hold of a different trauma counselor that we spoke to, and she guided us on what we need to do. I approached DSD in Athlone. I went to the police station. The case is laying with him now. The case is laying with DSD. I want her back at the school, and I want the perpetrator out. They've been covering up so many things at the school, and not once did the principal give me a call for anything. Late last year, I emailed him. I said, what is the process to bring my daughter back in grade 9? She's in a little bit of a better space. 2 days later, I got a response and said, unfortunately, there's no space. Nobody giving me a call, nobody explaining anything. I left them. And then I went through DSD and the police. I went to the education department in Ottery. I spoke to Mr. Kannemeyer, who's the circuit manager. He was supposed to assist me. He had a meeting with the principal at the school. Nothing came from that. They're supposed to call me into a meeting. That was the 5th of December. It's February. I'm still waiting. Nothing's happening. I spoke to somebody else in the department. She's in employee relations. She also contacted the circuit manager. She got the response very fast. He said he was going to have a meeting with me. I'm still waiting. I contacted somebody else in the department. He also contacted the circuit manager. Mr. Kannemeyer was supposed to phone me yesterday. He still didn't. I also approached member Khalil Brinkhuis as well. He also went to the school. He left his details. He wanted to speak to the principal. They've never contacted him. It's been 2 to 3 weeks already. The perpetrator is still in the school, going on freely. It's not the first time he's done this. There's other girls that he's done it to as well. And the school is well known for covering things up. It's a good academic school, but something needs to be done. And that is why I'm here today, because I'm not getting the assistance that I need. And she is not in the school at the moment. And we need to be heard because we're not being heard. And it's very traumatizing because she's even under trauma counseling now with the Tutuzela. That's how bad it is. So how can they allow these things to happen on the school premises? Whether you're having functions, your security needs to be tight. They didn't want to view footage, video footage. They didn't want to view any footage at all. So it's like, it's her word against his word, and his mother is on the PTA. So what is going on in the school? So I please need assistance urgently. I've been crying out for help for a very long time, and I'm not being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, just thank you for coming to the committee and being courageous enough and brave enough to come tell your story. And it's important that we hear these stories because it cannot be that violence happens in our schools. It cannot be tolerated. It must not be tolerated. And that's why this committee and the department needs to be able to assist in this regard. So I just mentioned lady in the striped shirt.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nosipo, surname Daniels. I am from the township Langa. I've got an organization in NPO. It is called Malihambe Women Outreach. It advocates for the voiceless, gender-based violence, and all of that. Now, I've got 2 issues. The first one, I'm going to be a parent who also has an issue. Tomorrow, I am attending a meeting at Harold Cressy High School for my own son, who unfortunately has experienced something I cannot even deal with myself. He was taken a video of in the loo, and his video was circulated in the social media. I phoned in myself in the department about a week ago to report this, and I went into the school as well, met the principal, and subsequent to that, the meeting is tomorrow with the other parties' parents and all that. So in my email, I requested myself that, please, can the department do something about bullying and take drastic actions, because we're going to have two things. We're going to have kids that are going to kill themselves, commit suicide, and we're going to have these kids fighting and killing each other. Because my son told me, I'm not going back to school, not unless that child is removed from the class, because the worst thing, they sit in the same class. So I had to make sure that I write my heart and pen down everything that I feel on an email. So I then copied, I'm getting emotional. I then also copied Minister Said in the email as well to say that please assist, because if we don't take up and take serious actions towards this, we're going to face a serious problem. Within, we can't even say a year. By later this year, we're going to have a serious problem. Now, this comes from homes, but unfortunately, my home is not like that. But we need to also see to the fact that gender-based violence is not a joke, because children that get to do all these things, if you check the background where they come from, it's an issue of gender-based violence at home. Then they come and bring it to school. Now, I feel very sorry for the teachers as well, because I normally speak to teachers almost every day of my life, because I deal with also rape cases of children that are getting raped. So when I see the pain in the teachers' eyes, it's something else. So the teachers as well have got another pain to deal with, to face these children. So I so wish that the department, Honorable Minister, can eventually get to come up with a plan in helping the future for these kids. There's definitely something that needs to be done. And also my question following that, when are we going to have social workers in our schools? Now I'm referring to Black communities. We do not have social workers in our schools. That makes things even very much worse to deal with such cases. Okay, and then I go to the other issue. The online system. I had so many people coming to me personally to come and ask for assistance for putting kids or registering kids on the system. And then, you know, as much as I'm a bitchy, but they get me on the phone, I just want to make a call and receive a call. Don't put me on the phone too much. So is there no other system that can be brought forth for communities that I would put underprivileged, so to put it? Because back in the days, a parent will walk into a school and register a child. There would still be data that is kept and all that. Is there nothing that can be done of that sort, just to accommodate those kind of parents that are unable to use these kind of gadget issues and all that? And then also, I'm not sure within the department, is there anything that is called a research department that would obviously speak to the population of a particular area and the numbering in the schools, which will take us now out of the problem that we are sitting with, which kids are still not placed in school. I just received another message when I was sitting here of a child that is 14 years old that is not placed in Athlone. So I'm not sure how things gets to be done, but is there research that gets to be done with population versus school placements and checking? Because if we're sitting here today, in the next 5 years, we're going to have times 10 trouble compared to what we have now. So is there something like that in the planning? And yeah. Oh, the last time I did attend a briefing that was held, I think it was 2 years back around the COVID time, where it was said that there were classrooms that were going to be added that was now based on the COVID time and all that. So how far did that go? Was it eventually done where classes were added? Are they helping now, or what happened to that plan? Because I know there was a plan that spoke to COVID and classes that were going to be added. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The gentleman in the blue.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you so much. It's the first time for me to be in the Parliament. So it's a privilege. My name is Lulamile Mkekela. I am with the members of the Khayelitsha School Governing Body Association. We represent the 65 schools in Khayelitsha. We came together as a nearby schools to form up association in order to look after the common problems which are affecting our schools. And I am a chairperson from Joslovo Engineering High School in Khayelitsha, and I've got chairperson in the gallery from Ludengamlana Primary School, and I've got chairperson from Zola Business High School, and I've got chairperson from Sosebenza High School. And we are here on behalf of the Khayelitsha schools. Chairperson, we see that the department is trying its level best. And I think we particularly, we have noticed that at Joslovo High School, we used to be number last in Khayelitsha High Schools. But this year we are number 10 on the queue. So there is a great progress. In the past 2 years at Joslovo, I've experienced a problem whereby Director Diamond was walking in our school and calling us to the district, to Metro East District, and that has worked for us. Because this year it did not pitch up, because we are not number last on high schools. We are number 10. I'm sure he's somewhere to the number last in Khayelitsha at Masile, not to Joslovo. So we thank you very much, the department, for the service which has been rendered in our schools in Khayelitsha. We do have challenges. We don't like to call them problems. We rather call challenge, because when it is a problem, we might not have a capacity to resolve it. We do have challenges in Khayelitsha schools, right through primaries, right through the high schools. But we would like those challenges to firstly put it to the ear of the minister, not in the ears of this house as a minister. And once our problems are not resolved, then we can talk to this house. But we are confident that as Khayelitsha School Governing Board Association, we can discuss those issues and with the minister, and we are positive that there's a great potential to resolve all of them. They are different, some are urgent, some are carrying on now, some can be taken through the medium term, the long term, but all of them, I think, as human beings, we do have a dominion to resolve them. But it's just that alone we cannot resolve, but with the authorities of the province, and we can resolve. We are definitely sure about that. So by those words, all what we are here for, my honorable chairperson is really to ask an appointment with the honorable minister. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Some homework for you. The lady in the back in the black, and then it was the lady in the blue and the closing the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to do my best to continue in English. Sometimes I may be changed to Afrikaans. This is eintlik my taal, and I promise the other lady I will speak to you in Afrikaans, but for the sake of the others, I will do it in my level best.
Interrupting you. For those who do not understand Afrikaans, there is translation devices in front of you. If you put the little thingy in your ear, there is translation for Afrikaans, for Xhosa, there's sign language on the screen, and if you're on the online platform, you're able to click the, I don't know what the button's name is, but it will write out the words for it. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I do have a shopping list that will look, Member Mackenzie, like a juvenile, but I will keep it to whatever. And I think thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. But I think the most important was the voice of the people who spoke, because that is the untold stories that is not reaching our department. And my organization, through the 4,200 children that we represent, is part of that. So I'm very glad that Member Plaat is also here. And I think this is two departments that really need to work together. Social department Development and Department of Education. Madam Chair, I think the biggest problem here is that the schools do not understand the implication of Section 110 of the Children's Act. We experience it every day, where we have to step in and we have to lay charges against teachers and many times learners where these violations happen and it is not effectively addressed. And I feel very strong about it. In our area, there's 2 of my community members, I'm so glad they're here. We work very hard to gain the cooperation of the schools. Some schools are doing brilliantly, other schools refuse us entry onto the premises. So we will not have a choice but to take those principles to the children's court. That is the one option, and we never need to stop. The other one is the disciplinary process of the Department of Education. I really try my level best to understand it. We have laid several charges against practitioners and staff and never received feedback. And I was a personal complainant in one case. I was never contacted to find out that a person had been found not guilty. And that is not a problem per se, but a mere fact that a complainant was not acknowledged in the whole process. And I think this is one of the problems that we need to deal. We are assisting now a school where we laid a criminal charge to a practitioner where there was 5 cases of assault against 5 different learners. So we are now assisting the school and the learners to try to resolve this matter and to have this practitioner removed. So I think there's a lot of stuff like this, and to hear these stories of these parents is actually heartbreaking. The other problem is I would like the statistics on how many grade 7s had been enrolled in grade 8. Is there maybe a gap? What happened to our learners? The other problem is the department aware of the High Court, North Gauteng High Court order in respect of how to deal with children displaying severe behavioral challenges? There's a 2018 High Court order instructing several departments and ministers of health, education, social development to deal with these children. So we can't also just make it a problem for the Department of Social Development, because it is an institutional problem asking for the assistance from both psychosocial but also educational level to address these issues. And it is an enormous problem. Our children getting promoted to the next grade on once. Now, if they cannot read properly in grade 4, what are they going to do in grade 5? What happened to this group of children? This is the children that we find drop out of school. We find them in the streets. We find them getting involved in gangsterism, activities, and all that kind of stuff. And lastly, Madam Chair, schools expelling children in the day, sending them home with a letter. I know what I would have done with that letter. If the police call you and say, please come and see, it looks like dit lyk soos 'n klomp sprinkane wat op die vlakte is, then it's children that has been expelled from the school. It's unacceptable. What we have arranged with some of the schools that's really working together with us is that no child will be expelled from school. Even as, I mean, they're not allowed to do it, but not for the day. We have a group of trained volunteers, and I'm proud to say that we are part of the Presidential Social Employment Fund. So in 3 schools, we have almost 100 teachers' assistants. So the agreement with those schools who is willing to participate is that if there's a child or children, they will call us and we will send volunteers. And they make classrooms of space available where we can sit with this child or children. And the department must realize, and please, you must bring it to your principals, children are out to being expelled for a day because they're out there where there is no supervision. We managed within 2 weeks to create an after-school facility for 100 children at Pieter Langenveld, where we feed children and we look after them. So, Madam Chair, this is on behalf of, I think, the whole of the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lady in blue.
Good afternoon, everybody. Madam Chair, thank you for the privilege. Ek is 'n ma van 'n 5,5-jarige Down syndroom kind. Seentjie, spesifiek. Op 5 maande het ek gegaan vir 'n oop hartoperasie wat 8,5 uur geduur het. My kind se hart het vir 'n minuut gestaan, maar hulle hom terug revive het. En hy sê deur vir die afgelope 4 jaar sukkel ek om my kind in 'n crash te kry by ons op Stellenbosch, waar hulle vir my gesê het, hulle kan nie my kind toelaat nie, want hulle het nie die nodige fasiliteite nie en die nodige fasiliteerders nie. Ek staan hier nie net namens my kind nie, maar namens al ons Down syndroom ouers wat fight vir ons kinders, want die system sê the special needs children has to go through the mainstream first before they can be placed in a special needs school. I was told this by Dorothea Special Needs School in Stellenbosch through the secretary when I called them to apply for my child there. And I was even told this through the panel when we met last year in October. The child has to be on the school system, on the school roll, on the waiting list for 3 years. Then you have to, jy moet jou kind se dokters mediese verslae moet jy alles gee. Daar moet bewys word dat jou kind Down syndroom is. Ons kinders word nie getoets vir Down syndroom nie. Our children are born Down syndrome, not like the autistic child. The autistic child are born, and after a certain period of time, they discover, but this child is autistic. Last year I applied in April because they said every child needs to go through the mainstream. So I applied online. Nowhere on the online system do they ask for the child's medical needs, or does this child has any specific needs. So I completed the form. He was accepted at Idas Valley Primary. In fact, he was placed through the department at Idas Valley. He was accepted at Rietenbos Primary and at Brookner de Villiers. So I decided, because of my constitutional right and because of my child's right, I decided to put my child at Brookner, because Brookner is a Quintal 1 school, no fee school. I can't rely on Sasa all the time because his father is nowhere around in his life. Not to make my problem your problem, but that is the situation which I am in. So I got the contract work. When I went to the, Brookner was the only one who contacted me last year, September. So I took the child for orientation. They said, no, he's fine. He can come. Late November, Idas Valley called me via WhatsApp. They couldn't get me on my contact details. My contact details, I gave 2 numbers. They contact me through WhatsApp. Why couldn't they contact me when they were supposed to contact me? And at that specific time, they expected me to pay the 2,000 Rand deposit, which they at that moment didn't have the exact amount for school fees for this year. They told me, no, man, we're going to let you know what the school fee is going to be for next year. They contact me every day at work up until the 5th of December. Ma'am, are you coming to pay? Are you coming to pay? I told them, when I have the money, I will come. They insisted I made a deposit of 500 and I didn't have it because I have other 2 kids as well, ma'am. I have a house, but I have support have to support. I'm the only breadwinner in the house. Is hartverskeurend as 'n mens almal die goedes aanhoor en moet vir praat hierso. Ek is 'n menseregte vegter. Ek veg vir ander mense se regte. Maar ek kan vir my eie kind se regte veg nie. Wat so tipe menseregte vegter is ek? Dis nie reg teenoor wat hulle doen teenoor my kindie. Die 16de Januarie was my kind vir die oriëntasie by Idas Vallei. Ek het daar met die hoof en sy panel gesit, die 2 teachers, daar's 'n assistant en die teacher in die klas. Hulle sê vir my, hulle kan nie my kind accommodate nie, want die klas is te groot vir hom. En as ek die kind daar wil hê, dan moet ek fasiliteite hê om vir hom te fasiliteer heeldag. Ek moet die fasiliteite betaal. Broekne het presies dieselfde vir my gesê, my kind was vir 3 dae by Broekne. Ek het vir die hoof gesê, my kind moet die 18de moet hy by Broekne ook wees. Ek gaan luister wat Broekne sê. Ons het gekom tot op die vergelyking dat die kind vir plus minus 2 tot 3 ure per dag by Idas Vallei sal wees, sekere dae van die week, maar hulle gaan nog eers vir my 'n rooster gee om te sê watter dae my kind kan kom. Tot op hede het hulle nog niks vir my gekontak nie. Broekne het die kind gehad van die 18de tot die 20ste. Hy kind kan niks vir my sê wat hy geleer het by die graad R juffrou nie. Want hoekom? Sy het die tyd gespandeer aan my kindie. As ek vir hom 10 gaan haal het soggens, ek het my werk uit loop bly om vir hom te gaan haal 10 van 8 tot 10. Dan is sy besig daar met wieever die man is wat vir die skool gehelp het met hulle atletiek, is sy besig met hy private man. She doesn't pay attention to my child, or she didn't pay attention. The Thursday morning, the HOD took the child when they were practicing athletics on the field. She took the child and she taught him something there. And up until today, he still remembers, but die roller roer die gras plat. Al probleem wat hy het, buiten sy hartjie, wat gefiks is, hy het 'n gat in sy linker oor. Hy kan nie lekker hoor nie, maar hy wil nie die gehoorapparaat dra nie, want dit maak hom seer. En hy het 'n spraakprobleempie, hy begin nou woorde en frases begin praat hy. Maar as hy daai kan sê, hy sê hulle Sondag, het hy Sondagskool toe gegaan. Hy kom huis toe en hy kom betuie vir my wat hy geleer het in die Sondagskool. Nou wat sê dit vir u? Tot op Sondag wat verby is, toe breek die juffrou by my, sy sê vir my, Dante was weer kwaai gewees vandag. Toe ek die kinders wil leer vir die ander eenetjie sê, staan op die stoel, laat hy kan beduie wat ons geleer het die liedjie. Toe sê Dante, maar hy wil dit doen en Dante het dit gedoen. Hoe kan juffrou die hoof sê vir my, sy kan nie my kind te kom met uit. Hier sit ek met die brief en ek gaan die brief vir u lees in Afrikaans wat sy met die 20ste gegee het. Graag bring ons onder die aandag dat ons vanaf maandag 23 Januarie nie meer vir Dante kan akkommodeer nie, tensy hy voltyds vergesel word van 'n oppasser. Sy sit my kind uit die skool uit. 'n week later, die 27ste, kontak sy vir my. Wat is die probleem met Dante? Waar is Dante nou? Toe sê ek, juffrou, sy het dan gesê Dante moenie skool toe kom nie. Sy het dan gesê Dante, dit het 'n brief vir my gegee. My suster het hy Vrydagoggend my kind gaan haal want ek kon nie gegaan het nie. Toe sy die kind gehaal. Sy's 'n qualified ECD teacher. Sy het nie werk nou nie. Sy kom 10 daar. Sy sê sy staan in loer deur die sinnetjie van die klaskamer deur. En juffrou sit net diep in die man se oë en kyk. Juffrou is geworried van die kindie. Hy sit met 'n skeer in sy mond. Sy sê sy hou vir hom vir 10 minute dop. Juffrou is glad nie geworried nie. Sy sê vir hom, Dante, al die skeer uit jou mond uit en kom. Toe vat sy my kind en sy gaan. Toe wil die juffrou sê, o Dante, al die skeer is Nana vir jou. Mense, dit is nie 'n grappie. Dis probleme wat ons elke dag mee sit. Is seer vir my as ouer. Ek het 'n huis gekry 2020 tydens COVID, 'n RDP huis. As 'n verniethuis, ja. maar daar moet krag wees, daar moet brood wees, daar moet melk wees, water moet betaal word. Jy het verantwoordelikhede. My kind moet lewe, ek kan mos nie net heeldag op SASSA se geld staat maak nie. Daar's hospitaalonkoste van elke maand moet hy kind by Rooikruis wees, waar die operasie gehad het, hy moet by Tygerberg wees, hy moet by Stellenbosch hospitaal wees. As uitgawes wat ek moet aangaan, hulle sien dit nie so raak nie. My vraag is, kan die departemente iets doen nie? Toe sy vir my daai Vrydag, laat weet die 27ste, toe sê sy vir my, meneer Maliwa het gesê, die kind moet gedierregister word. Ek moet die kind dierregister word, want die kind het nie 'n CMS-nommer, maar ek het dokumentasie om te stuit, my kind het 'n CMS-nommer, wat die departement gegee het vir hom. Geld hy CMS-nommer dan nie by al die skole nie, want volgens my kennis, wat vir ons gesê wat as SGB members, as die kind vandag 'n CMS-nommer kry by die skool, hy gaan reg deur die lewe met die CMS-nommer. Is ek reg, meneer? Nou, hoe kan hulle sê die kind het nie 'n CMS-nommer nie? En hoe kan hulle sê, ek moet die kind dierregister? Meneer Maliwa, wat die KB is, sê die kind moet gedierregister word. Die kind mag nie by die huis geteach word nie. Maar hulle maak ook die voorsiening dat die kind kan inkom by 'n skool nie, of dat die kind toegelaat moet word nie. Dan word dit gesê, ek moet die fasiliteite betaal. Ek doen nou funksies, sodat ek kan geld insamel om 'n fasiliteite te kry om my kind te teach. Ek kan nie my suster elke maand hy geld gee nie, want ek kry maar R2000 vir die maand. Dit is my hele pay. En my suster verwag 'n salaris, want sy het nie werk nou nie. Sy het ook 'n kind wat sy moet onderhou. Dis die sameloop van die lewe, dit is die probleme waarmee ons sit. Nie een skool wil ons kinders vat nie. Ons is 10 Down-syndroom kindertjies, selfe ouderdom, 10. Ons het 'n groepie begin, 'n supportgroep begin by die hospitaal. En ons support mekaar, kyk waar ons kan help, hoe ons mekaar kan help. As ek hier reg gekom het, dan sê ek vir die ouers op die groep, okay, ek het nou hier reg gekom, ek het daar reg gekom. Die ander een sê, maar sy het nou daar weer reg gekom, ons moet kyk. In die meantime, as jy kom, kyk, ons is upfront, ons is open, om te sê, ons kinders is Down-syndroom. Ons steek dit nie weg nie. As jy praat, as jy hulle nie bring die kind, maar as jy kom, ons het die plek vir die kind nie. So ek sit met die probleem met hom, Tjie. As 'n ma, is hy lekker binne nie. As hy lekker nie, die kind was so happy, hy gaan klas toe. Soggens as die kinders stap, want ek het uniform vir hom gekoop vir Broekne. Ek het uniform vir hom gekoop, ek het sy hele stationies vir hom gekoop. Uitgawes wat ek gehad het, met die bietjie wat ek gehad het, het ek gekoop, sodat my kind die skooljaar kan begin. Nou sit my kind by die huis. My suster moet hom teach. Hulle het maandagoggend toe pluk hulle al ons handepoedrywe af, toe leer sy van lewensvaardigheid buite in die tuin. Want toe kan hy vir haar sê, Nana, die gras is groen en 'n groene blare. Waar is dit 'n kind wat hy kan leer? Waar is dit 'n kind wat 'n gevaar is vir homself? Want dit is wat die een, juffrou, sorry, Betty, dat ek nou jou Chris moet noem. Betty se hoof het reg van my gesê, my kind is 'n gevaar vir homself. Sy ken nie my kind nie, sy het nog nooit gewerk met my kind nie, maar my kind is 'n gevaar vir homself. Hoe kan sy dit sê, as sy nog nie gewerk het met jou kind nie? Dankie, madam.
Ek wil net eerstens baie dankie sê vir al die ouers en gemeenskapslede wat hier is vandag saam met ons. It's so important in our society that our parents are involved. And what I've clearly learned here today is you care so much, not only of your own children, but of other children in the community, because sometimes when something's happening to one, it might be happening to others. And to the members, I know that we've gone over time, but I thank you for your patience, because sometimes one has to use one's discretion in order for us to be able to deal with the challenges that are currently out there in our society. I've heard a lot of matters regarding safety, regarding gender-based violence. And when it comes to some of the violence matters, the first thing that went up into my mind was, where are these parents of the children that did some of these things? I'm going to hand over to Minister and Department for the answering of the questions. And I just want to also thank you for also allowing us to run over time. Thank you.
So I'm not going to answer the questions, Chairperson. I'm just going to say this. There are 4 parents with serious issues which they have put here. So what's going to happen immediately after this meeting, lady in red on top, you're going to meet with me, the lady in blue, you will meet with Mr. Mayor. Little Chrissy lady, you will meet with Mr. Benjamin. And there was another lady with a scarf, you will meet with Heather. Immediately after this, we're going to take down whatever you said here, and we'll look into it. That is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I'm going to ask the Minister just to do concluding remarks, but I just want to ask that if you have not signed the register for this meeting in terms of that you're a member of public or otherwise, please do, just so that my procedural officer is going to bug me later that we need to know who was in the meeting, please. And just so we have all the details, because in the end of the day, when the help desk isn't there anymore, we need to be able to do oversight of the department, whether they have gotten back to the respective people as well. Thank you so much, Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I want to echo the sentiments. I want to thank particularly the parents who've raised these very serious issues. And I really want to thank the parents for fighting for their children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will try and assist. And as the SG has directed each one of the parents with serious issues, we will meet senior officials of our department, and we will endeavour to assist not only them, but also, of course, the parents who have lodged queries and complaints with the help desk outside. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, members, I'm going to ask that we set a deadline date for resolutions through the procedural officer. I'm always very strict when it comes to Fridays because our procedural officer is also of the Muslim faith. And I think we've really gone over time into the lunchtime slot, and there are some members who might want to go to mosque as well. So with that, colleagues, thank you so much for being here today, department and officials, minister, public members. It is always wonderful seeing the participation and the robust participation in the Education Committee, because Parliament is not just a building. Parliament is supposed to be there for the best interests of the people of the Western Cape, and we can only do that if we're able to hear these particular stories. So thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.